Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 of What If Naruto was in Cyberpunk 2077. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Hey Danny, I've been meaning to ask you. Gloria spoke while they climbed back into their rig, each carrying a bag from a little roadside vendor selling what was probably the best 7 scoop-bean burritos this side of the river. How's your family doing? Once settled, they tore into the bags and opened their food. Considering they just dropped off 3 corpses at the local morgue, 2 of which were burnt to a crisp, many would have probably lost their appetite, but they were pretty desensitized to it by now. Danny shrugged, opening his burrito to add some hot sauce from the bottle he had stashed away. Output's doing pretty good. His parents can't stand me, but that's nothing new, he grumbled, expertly wrapping his burrito. You know, I always wondered why they didn't like you. Gloria took a bite and washed it down with her bottle of real water. I mean, you got a job, pay your bills, and you're not some deviant. I think. Danny chuckled. I wonder that myself honestly, but it's mainly his dad. I think, he sighed while she took another bite. Old school gonk, probably has something against me pounding his son on our date nights. She choked on her food, coughing and scrambling for her drink while he laughed at her. You gonk? You asked. He took another bite and waited for her to get situated. Let's see. My ex-wife is still a bitch and our son doesn't want anything to do with her since she's been hooked on glitter. And get this. He took a swallow of his Nicola and turned to her in his seat. Stupid junkie bitch tried selling his wreath for glitter, his damn school wreath. I don't know what my ass was thinking when I made her my mainline. The only good thing that came out of her is my son. Dios mio, sorry you're having to deal with that, Danny. He waved it off. It's whatever. Junior's been keeping up with his studies though, think he's aiming to land a gig with medtech. Speaking of kids, how's David doing? He's been accepted into Arasaka Academy, she gushed, grinning from ear to ear, best scores out of his entire year, got a scholarship and everything. Nova, he grinned, congrats, you've always said you wanted him to go there. I know, her grin faded a little, but I'm a little worried, it's gonna be a big change for him and he'll be around a bunch of corpo kids. That made both of them grimace. I just don't. Unit 12, we got a call about an assault at Megabuilding H6. Need you to go patch up a paying customer. Came the call from their dispatch. Well, that's not too far away, I guess, he mused, taking another bite of his food. They didn't mention a GSW, so at least we don't have to rush. XXX. I saw in you what life was missing. You lit a flame that consumed my hate. I'm not one for reminiscing, but I'd trade it all for your sweet embrace. Naru, baby that tickles, her giggling made him grin, the sound soothing him down to his very core. Laying together with the muted hollow playing the early morning news and the radio playing, Naruto groaned into her stomach, arms wrapped around her while her fingers played with his hair. Wait, didn't you have something important going down today? She asked playfully. You keep on and I'm not gonna let you go. He nuzzled his face into her tanned stomach and huffed, blowing a raspberry into her stomach that made her giggle again. There's a canvas with 2 faces. Of fallen angels who loved and lost. It was a passion for the ages. But in the end I guess we paid the cost. Don't wanna, he whined, looking up at her over the swell of her bare tanned breasts, rather stay here with you. Never before had he ever felt so comfortable, so peaceful. He felt like he could just let go and rest. She hummed, a thoughtful look on her face. You sure about that, Naru? I mean, I'm more than happy to have you all to myself, but the way you said it made it sound important. Like life or death. Her fingertips lightly brushed down the back of his neck, then trailed to tease his ears, making him twitch. Just a little while longer. He wiggled his arms out from behind her and returned the teasing by lightly stroking her sides with his fingertips, making her shiver with goosebumps appearing. Hey baby, what's the name of this song? I see your eyes, I know you see me. You're like a ghost, you're everywhere. I'm your demon, never leaving. A metal soul of rage and fear. Her eyes lit up at the question, never fade away by Samurai. Well, depending on who you talked to, it was mostly by Johnny Silverhand. I like it. She laughed, I know right, pretty preem huh. But baby, her tone turned serious, you need to get up. He felt her hands caress his face, making him look her in the eyes over her bare chest and wince as her grip on his cheek got tighter. Ow babe, what's wrong? The side of his face burned, his ear felt like it had been torn off. That one thing that changed it all. That one sin that caused the fall. You have to get up, Naru. Yeah. We'll never fade away. You have to wake up. XXX. With a groan, Naruto's eyes snapped open and a rush of agony enveloped him as his entire body screamed at him. Blinking several times, he coughed and spat out blood which only caused more pain to flare up in him while he tried to process where he was. Laying face down in a puddle of his own blood. Biting back his agony, he pushed himself and rolled onto his side and looked around. He was surrounded by what looked like a destroyed vendor's stall, shattered glass and broken display cases of now ruined products all around him with the smell of something burning filling his bloody nose. His heart pounded against his chest, each beat sending jolts through his broken ribs. But deep inside he could feel the heat of Kurama's chakra working to heal his battered body, slowly fighting all the damage while keeping him alive. At least he hoped that was what the burning feeling was and not the charred flesh of his torso. Gunner, he thought suddenly, remembering how he got here. Looking around for the man caused pain to shoot up his battered body, but he had to find the man, make sure he was dead. It took a few moments of scanning what he could see until he spotted the man's broken corpse half broken in two atop a broken grill half wrapped in the canopy above the stall and smoking. He couldn't help it, a sick part of him relished at the sight of his state, twisted and broken, the synthetic cloth tangled around him melting and starting to bubble under his corpse. No doubt it would catch fire soon, a fitting end for the son of a bitch in his opinion. He'd done it, he'd killed the ones responsible for Kami's murder. Pervy Sage once told him that the path of vengeance left you feeling empty when they were talking about Sasuke, how it only brought about more misery in the end and that he'd come to regret his choices, but at the moment, he felt great. Relatively speaking, maybe he'd feel worse later on when he had more time to think. His holo chirped with a notification, showing he had missed a call and a message from Jackie. Hey Holmes, figured you're still sleeping but Mama wants you to know that she's holding Camilla's a friend today around 1. Wanted to hold it before we tackled the thing at the mega building, thought it'd be good for you. Anyway, hit me up when you get this and I'll come pick you up. Oh yeah, Jackie was under the impression he'd gone back to Kami's place to rest. He needed to get to the bar. He didn't want to miss her memorial. The only question though was how he'd manage it in this state. For now though, he'd at least answer the message. I'll be there. Rolling over again, groaning as he did and laying flat on his back, Naruto looked up at the open sky above him, ignoring the sticky slick feeling of his own blood seeping down his face, or the sensation of it on the back of his head from the puddle he was in. Each breath came in short haggard bursts, his body twitching painfully with each breath in and out. Mr. Naruto's eyes opened. He wasn't sure when he shut them, but glancing over he spotted a boy standing a few feet away looking at him with wide eyes. It was the boy from before, the one whose dad was being beaten by those gangoons. Kid. The little boy turned. Mom. Dad, he called out, running away. Over here, it's him. He needs help. Andy. A woman cried out some distance away, I told you not to run off. But Mom. The child whined, it's the guy that saved Dad. Dad, you have to help him. Where? A man asked. All right, son, you stay with your mom, we'll help him out. Honey, call an ambulance. A face appeared above Naruto, making him blink. Holy shit, the man gasped, his own busted and bruised face twisted in horror at what he was seeing. How are you still breathing? The man placed a hand on his shoulder, quickly snatching it back as the blonde groaned. Shit, sorry Hold on, I'll get some help. The man left his vision, leaving Naruto to look at the now bright sky above him. Grant. Hey, give me a hand will ya Chum? It's the guy that saved me. Naruto heard several more voices approaching and the bruised man reappeared over him. Hey Chum, look, we'll get you away from the fire, all right, help's on the way. Stay strong, okay? Help me up, he groaned out. The man grimaced. Chum, you need to stay down. He looked down at the gaping charred wound and exposed bone in his torso. We got help coming, just. Naruto cut him off. Help me. Stand. He growled out, please. Once again, the man looked torn, then turned to his Chum and shrugged. All right Chum. Grant, you ready? Let's move him first at least. Another man appeared over him and nodded, looking queasy at him. The pair eased him up a bit to get a hold on him, counting down from 3 before hoisting him up, much to his body's discomfort. They carried him for a few moments, away from the destroyed stalls he'd landed on, and laid him on the ground next to one of the concrete benches next to the wall. All right, we're gonna sit you on the bench first, all right? The dad asked, getting a nod from him. Naruto grunted, just do it. Don't worry about me, just do it. They did as he asked, making him grit his teeth as his battered and broken body protested. The two helped him sit down and he leaned back heavily against the wall. Several more people seemed to filter in, the alarms having been shut off sometime when he was out and the power restored, which should have been easy. He only flipped the power main. Several people muttered about the damaged stalls, the owners appearing to try and pick up the pieces and put out the fire. Some looked over at him and grimaced, a few even wondered how he was still alive. "Are you gonna be okay, mister?" he heard the little boy ask and slowly turned to look at him. How the kid didn't flinch at the sight of him he didn't know. "I'm Andy. I found your mask," the boy told him with a grin, then held it out. Like him, the thing had seen better days. The left side of it was broken and bloodied from where he'd been shot, and the corner where the strap connected to it was broken off. He wasn't sure what to tell the kid, reaching out to take the offered mask. He decided to put on his usual strong act and smiled. "Yeah kid, I'll be okay, I'm Naruto." He didn't want to tell the boy he'd probably never be okay. He'd heal, but be okay. He didn't feel like he would. "Thank you." He zeroed them all. Someone muttered, "All those gangoons. Good riddance." Naruto reached up and pressed the quick-release clasp of his wrecked plate carrier, which sagged down as soon as it was released. He then did the same to the one on his side, letting the remaining parts of his vest collapse to the side next to him on the bench. Damn, Gonks deserved it. His shirt was ruined. It was one of the last remaining pieces of clothing he had from home. "Help me with the fire, Choom." "Hold up, that's that asshole. What's his name? Gunner." Looking up at the people gathered near Gunner's burning body, he laughed. It started out as a small shake that only hurt a bit, but soon found himself laughing as hard as his battered body would allow. "Fuck it, let him burn," another voice spat. Damn, he felt so tired. Maybe he'll just rest a bit. Looking down, the gaping wound in his side wasn't bleeding as much, he just needed to give it some more time. "Mr. Naruto." "Yeah, just rest." Despite the metal bolts embedded into the bench to keep the homeless from sleeping on them, one of which was jammed into the back of his thigh, he felt somewhat comfortable. "Mr. Dad." Then he'll get to the bar and say goodbye to her. XXX. "It's beautiful, Mama. Camilla would like it, I'm sure." Jackie stood next to his mother and wrapped an arm around her as they stood in front of the memorial table holding Camilla's urn and photo. Several small candles were placed around it, just waiting to be lit. The bar would be pretty much closed today, much to their regulars' chagrin, but Mama Wells insisted on it and Jackie agreed. They expected quite a few people to show up today and didn't need any more issues to come up with emotions running high as they were. "Have you heard from Naruto yet?" she asked, turning to look at her son and patting the arm around her shoulder. "Nah, not yet," he shrugged, "but with how he looked earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if he sleeps for a few more hours at least." They turned and walked back towards the bar where Pepe was moving one of the small tables away from the walkway near where they planned for people to stand. Sent him a message over the holo, offering him a ride over. "Try and get him to show up a bit early, okay mijo?" she asked, a strange look in her eyes that made Jackie a bit suspicious. "I really have to tell him something before there's a bunch of people around." "Yeah, you got it, Mama." He saw her glance over to Pepe, then turned to see the man look away with a weird look on his face. "Alright, wanna fill me in on the deets?" he told them while crossing his arms. "Something I should know." "It's nothing, mijo," his mother tried telling him, but from the look he had, she knew he wasn't buying it. Pepe sighed, setting the table down and returning to move the chairs. "Just tell him, Jefe, pretty sure he'll know soon enough." Looking between the two, Jackie crossed his arms with a slightly uncomfortable look on his face. "Tell me what?" he asked with a worried tone. "Jackie, when Camilla died," she started, her eyes tearing up as she did, which made her son feel a bit worried. The woman seemed to be mulling over her words, looking down at the floor for a few moments before looking back up at him. "She was pregnant, mijo." Jackie's eyes widened. "She was," he trailed off with a shocked expression on his face, "and Naruto was the..." She nodded. "Jesu Cristo, does he know?" "I couldn't tell him, not at that time. And honestly, I don't know if I was ever gonna tell him." She admitted sadly. "Pepe convinced me though, he deserves to know." Jackie couldn't believe it. Camilla was pregnant when she died. He'd never thought about having kids when he was with her, and as far as he knew, neither did she. Did Camilla plan on getting pregnant with Naruto's kid? He was gonna be devastated. His eyes widened. He was gonna flip his shit. He massacred a bunch of gonks at that warehouse and burned the ones who killed her alive. What was he going to do when he found out he'd lost not only his girl but his kid too? XXX. "Don't worry, Andy, he'll be okay. He's just resting," his father told him upon reaching his worried-looking son and giving the man a once-over. "Go and find your mom, okay? Andy nodded and sped off as only a child could, leaving his father next to the man. Tones winced as he looked at the young man that saved him from being beaten to death by those gangoons and in front of his mainline and son no less. His own body hurt from the beating, but compared to this guy's wounds he wouldn't complain. The various vendors operating in the building had been forced to pay protection to 6th Street for years. Annoying, yes, but the gangoons actually did protect them from outside gangs and kept the peace for the most part. It wasn't until recently did these new gonks come in claiming there was a change in leadership. They charged way more than before, more than he could honestly make at his little stall. He'd have to charge triple the amount just to cover these greedy gonk assholes, but like all of his chums running their own business, they scraped and did what they could. Tones had been contemplating whether or not to just give up and leave, just pack up what little they had and take both his girl and son to find a new place. It was a foolish thought though. They'd be homeless and on the streets with the proles before they knew it. Shit looked bleak, he knew it, his mainline knew it, his chums knew it. The only one who didn't was Andy, his boy, and he'd keep it that way for as long as he could. Then, like some action BD samurai, some masked gatos rolled in heavy and proceeded to slam it on with the 4 gonks beating the shit out of him. It was like something out of those comics his boy liked, a hero helping someone in need, something he never believed in. Until now. Hey Tones, use these. He glanced over to his buddy, whose mainline ran a small laundry service for the building while he did maintenance on most of the floors, got a couple of air hypos from work, still in date I think. He nodded and winced again as he kneeled down, getting a much closer view of the gaping wound in the blonde man's torso. Tough fucker, his buddy muttered behind him, must have some cream chrome keeping him going. Tones couldn't help but agree and jabbed the man in his shoulder with the first bounce back MK1. He'd have to wait before using the second. His wife wanted to take him to the docks but he stopped her. They already couldn't afford food and barely covered the damn rent thanks to these 6th Street assholes, but luckily he remembered just enough first aid to know that he'd only be sore as hell for a while. They hadn't broken anything just yet. Then all hell broke loose. Shortly after the lights went out, gunshots erupted above them. It was like one of those BDs from the Metal Wars, gunfire, explosions, screaming. It seemed like it would go on forever. God, he'd been so afraid that something would happen to his family. He just remembered holding on to them as tight as he could against the wall, hoping that if by some ungodly stroke of bad luck happened and a stray bullet found them, it would hit him and not them. But as quickly as it all started, it stopped. When everyone started coming out of their hiding places and curiously trying to find out what happened, he's not proud to say that he let his boy run off by taking his eyes off of him for a minute. The loud commotion in their open-air market area was what set him into a panic as he heard his boy cry out for them. Holy shit, Tones, another chum of his spoke, just checked out the 19th floor, it's a goddamn war zone in there. It was an older portly fellow that was trying to set up a gun shop in the building until 6th Street stole all his hardware. He sure as shit zeroed the lot of them. About time someone stood up to 6th Street, another muttered. Chum's a hero as far as I'm concerned. Tones got a weird feeling in his chest as he thought about everything. Nothing seemed to be going right and no matter where they turned all they could see was more hardship thanks to those goons, but now it was as if a weight had lifted off of them somehow. 6th Street was still there, but surely, because of this they'd think twice, wouldn't they? It wasn't like all their problems were gone, but for the first time in a long time he felt hope. Grabbing the other bounce back, Tones checked the time and shrugged. Chum was tough, so he'd probably not OD. He hoped and jabbed him in the thigh. XXX. A bit later, his mother was busy upstairs where some last-minute paperwork needed to be handled, leaving Jackie along with his thoughts on the situation and sitting at the bar with a glass of the bar's club soda. He wanted a drink to go along with his troubled thoughts, but he'd made a promise and besides it wasn't even noon yet. Looks like you're letting your mind wander a lot, huh, Jackito? Glancing over, he spotted Pepe moving behind the bar with a small crate of bottles under one arm. You could say that. He muttered under his breath, but was still heard by the man in the near silent bar. I wouldn't if I were you, Jackito, the barcoon told him, a small grin on his face. It's much too small to be wandering on its own. Huh, Jackie looked at him fully, still partly distracted but processing his words. Hey. Seeing the look when he finally realized, Pepe chuckled and set the crate down on the bar. Jackie slowly grinned back. Sorry Pepe, just thinking on some stuff. Wanna share? It's about Naruto and Kami's kid, Jackie told him. I hate to say it, but I don't know if Mama should tell him. Seeing Peep's face fall and a frown slowly forming, he held up a hand. Hold on, I got a reason. Taking a quick sip of his soda, he continued, Pepe, just a few hours ago I saw. Jackie leaned forward and nodded for him to come closer. Pepe raised an eyebrow and did so. Choom, that mess on the news about the road collapsing, he did that. Tracked down the ones responsible for Cammy's death. Didn't they find like over 30 gonks there? Pepe asked. Jackie noted, zeroed them all. Not only that, but when I went to help him, he'd found the two that actually pulled the trigger, and when we got him, he trailed off, remembering what he'd seen less a few good hours ago. He tortured them for information, Pepe. Then burned them alive. He's planning on going after one more gonk and they're at a mega building. What if? What if knowing about his kid makes him do something a lot more drastic? The man just listened in shock, trying to imagine the friendly young man he'd seen here with Cammy doing that before deciding that yeah, he could see that actually. Were he in the blonde's shoes and his Cynthia were ever taken from him, he could definitely imagine himself wanting to hurt the ones responsible. Well, the man grumbled, pausing and looking as if he were contemplating his words. Considering the circumstances, I can't say I blame the gato. Don't get me wrong, but if it were my Cynthia, he trailed off with a small shrug which Jackie couldn't help but nod to. Not saying he was wrong. It's just I'm afraid of what he'll do once he knows. He just got back to NC. What, 3 or 4 days ago? He looked at the glass and slowly rotated it with his fingers. I got the feeling that he's been going non-stop ever since he got those messages about her. Vato's burning himself out. He went on to mention some of the things he'd noticed. Bloodshot eyes, the vacant look he sometimes got when they talked, the wounds he was ignoring. After a moment of silence, he looked up to the man who was no longer paying him any mind. Hey Jackie, the man started, that mega-bulleting. Was his H6. Yeah Holmes, how'd you know? Pepe motioned past him to where the holo was on but silent. Turning, Jackie felt a pit form in his gut and cursed at the banner running underneath the news reporter. He wouldn't have. Massacre in mega-bulleting. Gang violence reported in Arroyo, mega-bulleting H6. The blonde gonk did. He felt betrayed that Naruto would leave him behind like this, but as he saw the pictures, a sense of relief washed over him. That was a lot of gangoons, 6th Street gonks with plenty of hardware too from the looks of it. He'd hold his own just fine in a fight with most of the gonks on the street, but that many Sixers. There was a reason why they held their turf despite being outnumbered to such a degree. XXX. Opening his eyes, Naruto winced and looked down to see the battered and bruised man he'd helped before kneeling by him. A bounce-back jabbed into his thigh near one of the nearly healed bullet wounds with another used air hypo laying on the bench next to him. Sorry about that, the man winced. Looked like you needed it. He was actively trying not to look at the still gaping wound just below the blonde's ribs on his left side. He could feel the medicine trying to work its magic in conjunction with Kurama's chakra and shook his head. It's fine, thank you. But, I have somewhere to be. What? The father blinked, wide-eyed like an owl as the heavily wounded man started to stand, still bleeding from his wounds and in no shape to be moving. Whoa, hold on Choom. He reached out and hesitated to stop him, not wanting to touch him and potentially make the damage worse. Really, please, you need to wait. We called an ambulance. If it's about money don't worry, we all pulled some eddies. Standing, Naruto steadied himself by grabbing the wall behind him, leaving a red smear on the concrete, then looked at the man, who motioned to several people around them. Most were still amidst the cleanup of the common area, all the while letting the now burning stall consume Gunner's corpse while they glared at it. It's not that, I got somewhere important to be. He left a few more bloody smears along the wall. Choom, it can wait, he pleaded, the people around him nodding with concerned looks. I made her wait long enough, he responded, taking a few more steps and heading towards the entrance of the mega building, not gonna make her wait any longer. The man looked between his fellow tenants who all looked uneasy. Don't be a gonk dude, he tried once again, quickly stepping ahead of him but not blocking his way. Your friend will understand. We'll call her if you want, let her know what went down. That made Naruto stop completely. I'd like that. More than anything, he started, wincing and holding his side gingerly while turning to look at him. But they killed her. That's why I did this, he finished, motioning with the remaining portion of his cyber arm towards the impromptu pyre. I have to get back to her, say goodbye. The man winced again, especially at the way his savior seemed to deflate at the end before taking a few more steps. Daddy, the man heard his son yell, running over to them from the entrance with his wife close behind. They're here to help him. With that, the boy turned and ran excitedly back to the entrance. His wife gave him a look and followed after him. Would you at least let them look you over? He pleaded, let him patch you up as best they can at least. He saw the pleading look not only from the man and his wife, but several others around them too before he closed his eyes for a moment, sighing. Cammy could wait just a few more minutes, he guessed. If it meant that much to them. Fine. XXX. Upon reaching Megabuilding H6, Danny parked the rig outside by the front while Gloria yawned. Damn, I shouldn't have eaten that whole thing. She mused, stretching as they opened the doors and climbed out. Her partner only chuckled. Told you, he said, nose in the air jokingly. I said they'd have the best burritos in Arroyo and that you'd never resist finishing the whole thing off. She shook her head and they went around to the back and got their gear, pretty much anything they'd need to treat injuries ranging from simple cuts, bruises, and burns all the way to amputations, broken bones, and gunshot wounds. Wonder what's going on, Gloria muttered, nodding towards the entrance where a large group of people were milling about. Danny shrugged. Hell if I know, he then sniffed the air. The fuck, that smells like. She grimaced as well once she caught a whiff and as one, they looked at each other with pale faces. It smelled just like that garage with the burnt bodies. Oh no, not another one. She groaned. Opening up a small cabinet where they kept their personal items, she grabbed the small bottle of scented lotion she kept and rubbed a bit on her neck to fight the smell. Danny cleared his throat and she turned to see him with his hand out. It's orange scented, she told him, handing it over where he did the same as her. It could smell like Scav's asshole for all I care. He grumbled, handing it back. I've had enough burnt flesh for one day. Smells nice. The man held his hand up to his face, sniffing it. What was this called again? Hey, they turned to see a little boy running down the stairs, nearly falling as he jumped down the last 3 and scrambled to catch himself. The kid ran over with an excited look. Hurry up, Mr. Naruto needs help. Come on, hurry, he's hurt bad. With that, the kid turned and scrambled back up the stairs, passing a woman who looked between the kid and them. Come on up, the woman yelled, he's just inside. Gloria and Danny shared a glance then quickly gathered their gear to follow after them. There was a small, murmuring crowd that blocked their way as they got to the top of the stairs. From the snippets of the multiple convos they heard, some Gangoon shit had gone down and the local thugs had been flatlined by someone avenging his mainline. I'm the one who called, the woman told them at the top, her eyes lit up and their tablet pinged with a, payment received, he's right through there, you'll see him. EMT, Danny called out as they approached the crowd. EMT please make way. Please make. Following behind him, Gloria stepped on the back of his heels and bumped into him as he suddenly stopped ahead of her. Ow, damn Danny, what's up? She asked, peering around him only to feel her heart drop. It had been months since she last saw him but her conscience kept reminding her of him. The reason why she was able to support her son as much as she was able to these days, the guy she clept thousands worth of eddies in gold and silver from. There had been several times where she pictured running into him again. Would he recognize her? Had he realized that she stole from him? What would he say to her if he did? It wasn't like she could return them and most of the eddies were tied up with David's tuition. Gloria had imagined several different scenarios, some good, some bad, but honestly, she didn't imagine that she. Gloria, Danny's voice snapped her out of those thoughts. You good? He asked slowly, looking at her with concern. She nodded. Yeah, let's go. It was him. Good Lord above, he looked worse than before. Sir, Danny called out as they rushed over. The blonde looked at them with a shocking amount of clarity for someone wounded so badly. Did he have a pain editor? Sir, you're going to be okay. Danny, we need to get him scanned in the ambulance, she told him, running a scan of her own with their smaller issued scanner. He's showing weird readings. He agreed and took her bag. I'll run to the rig and get it ready. You help him there, all right? Danny was gone before she could answer but her training took hold and she gently took his arm, noticing the bullet wounds with a grimace and lifted it over her shoulders, trying her best not to press into the open wound at his side. Here, lean on me. I remember you. That simple sentence chilled her down to the bone. Did he blame her for his missing stuff? Was he pissed? Gloria right, Naruto continued, letting himself lean a bit more into her as they walked through the crowd and down the stairs. Looks like you're patching me up again. He gave her a small grin. Small world, huh? She nodded, still a little worried. Thank you. Loading him up into the rig, the two EMTs went about scanning him and trying to make sure that he wouldn't bleed to death, neither mentioning the fact that they'd waited a little longer to show up so that they could enjoy their lunch. Multiple through and through GSW, dozens of microfractures in. Well, it'd be quicker to say which aren't cracked in some way. Must have a hell of a ripper with some Novachrome to keep you moving like this. Danny spoke as he went over the scan while Gloria did what she could to stop the bleeding. We really should take him to the med center, she said, only for Naruto to shake his head. Just patch me up, he grunted as she cleaned the wound from Gunner's hidden arm launcher. Stitch up what you can and bandage up the rest. The two shared a glance. Sir, if that's what you want. I mean, we can't force you, Danny started before huffing, but she's right, you possibly need surgical help, the extent of your injuries. No, Naruto took a breath after snapping, sorry. But I have something more important to do, besides, I can't afford the time or eddies for those vultures. The only reason I'm here is because those people asked. What the hell could be so important? The other man finally snapped before catching himself. With all due respect, sir, you need. Have you ever found someone so precious that it changes the way you look at the world? Both EMTs stopped to stare at him. Someone that gave you meaning and made you smile when you were at the lowest and had nothing. I did. I don't know how, but I did, and those assholes took her from me. The pair remembered the murmuring about what had gone down from the other tenants. Just found out her memorial is today. It's about to start and I'll be damned if I miss it. We'll give you a ride there, Gloria told him, making Danny look at her. If the supervisor found out they gave him a ride somewhere, there'd be hell to pay. Just tell us where. A pounding at the back cut them off. Through the glass they saw a small hand waving quickly before a young man jumped up, looking through the glass as he did. Mr. Naruto, you forgot these. The boy, Andy if he remembered right, told him as Gloria opened the door. He held out his nearly destroyed plate carrier and the damaged mask, making him realize he'd left it on the bench back there. Hey Gloria, can I talk to you for a sec? The man asked, opening the side door to the rig and motioning for her to follow. We'll give you two a minute to chat, okay? Gloria followed and shut the door behind her, stepping out onto the street while Naruto took the offered gear. Thanks Andy, the boy grinned at him, reminding him strongly of Konohamaru back when he was a little shit with a missing tooth, which made him smile in return. Against his side's wishes, he moved to reach out and take the two items, holding the mask in his one hand while the vest hung over his arm. Hope you feel better soon, Mr. Naruto. Me to Andy, me too. XXX. Okay Gloria, what was that about? He demanded as soon as the door closed, speaking lowly as not to be overheard. You've been acting a little weird ever since you saw him. You spaced out when you saw him, wanted to run a deep scan, and since he's refusing to go to the med center you're offering him a ride. Gloria grinned a little at him, feeling like a child that got in trouble with the teacher as he crossed his arms. What's up Choom, you know this guy? We met him before, Danny, remember? He looked at her puzzled. Few months back, call about a body in the street, the guy, Ganik missing an arm. Her partner looked like he was processing it. Oh shit, it was that guy. He muttered, eyes wide, holy shit. Huh, but that doesn't explain why you're willing to risk going against SOP. You know that cunt of a supervisor will dock our pay if she finds out. It'll be fine, she said, waving it off. That grubby puta's too busy trying to save her own job since that last review. Turned out that when she couldn't suck out a good review from the new higher-up, a serious bitch with no sympathy for BS, she'd been too busy trying to get her files in order before she came back for a follow-up. Besides, we left him on the street last time, least we could do is drop him off somewhere on the way back to the med center. With the way he looked at her, Gloria could tell that he suspected something else was up. Gloria, you don't have a soft spot for the bad boy back there, do you? Got the hots for him, do ya? Embarrassed, she punched him in the arm and uttered a slew of curses at the man, making him laugh, which earned him another punch. Ow fuck, I'm joking. I don't have the hots for him, she growled, blushing lightly. Why not? Blood and wounds aside, he's pretty cute. If I didn't love my output so much I'd give him a shot. He smirked and looked thoughtful. Wonder if he'd be down for a threesome. You perv, she smacked him again, making him laugh. XXX. Jackie felt a pit forming in his stomach as the bar started filling up with the people joining them for Camilla's ofrenda. Dozens of high-ranking Valentinos had shown up for Gustavo, with even more lower-ranking gangoons showing up out of respect. The padre himself, Haywood's top fixer, had shown up with his driver, offering his deepest condolences to his mother. Misty and Vic had shown up for him and were around the bar speaking to the other guests. V called him to apologize. Since the ofrenda was last minute she wasn't able to show up, but honestly, it was probably for the best with all the gangers around, nice-looking corpo chica like her. Some gonk would probably try to fuck with her and end up missing limbs. Several more people he only kinda knew came filtering in as time passed. he kept an eye out the entire time hoping Naruto would walk in soon. He'd sent a message saying he was on the way a little while ago, but it was getting time to start and he was hoping to talk to him first. "Still not here yet?" his mama asked, walking over and placing a hand on his shoulder. "He said he was on the way. As much as I hate it, we may have to start without him, mijo." She patted his shoulder a few times and gave him a mournful look. "We have a few more minutes." But, he nodded slowly and sighed, turning to look at his mother. She gave him another sad smile and walked over to speak to Gustavo, who was sitting with his girl, who still had a few bandages on herself, on the couch by Camilla's urn with his face buried in his hands. She'd been so strong all day, but he knew she cried when she thought no one was around to hear. He'd always thought that his mother got attached to Camilla because they were dating for so long, but thinking back, he realized that his mama saw Camilla as the daughter, his bastardo, of a father killed so long ago, and now she'd lost another child. And a grandchild. XXX. "Look, don't do anything foolish, okay?" Gloria was in the zone, her work mode as David once called it. "The bleeding has nearly stopped, but if you stress it you'll make it even worse, got it?" The blonde was a gonk in her opinion for refusing to go to the med center. By some miracle the bullets didn't seem to have hit anything vital, and if she didn't know any better, she'd say that they looked like they were already healing by the time she got them bandaged. "You need to see a ripper or a doc ASAP, okay? If any of your ganics are damaged you may need to get them replaced." Naruto winced as she tightened the bandage around his chest, which held a trauma pad soaked with some kinda meds, to his torso. "You got it, doc." He wanted to scratch the itchy bandage she stuck to his face, sealing up the gash in his face, but she'd already popped his hand away twice. "I'll go see my ripper soon, promise." She huffed, rolling her eyes at the promise. "Yeah, if I had an Eddie for every time someone promised that. I always keep my promises. I'm sure." She stood up and turned to one of the cabinets, holding herself steady like a pro as the ambulance went around a corner. "Since you're not gonna do the smart thing, here's something to hold you over for the pain." His eyes widened as she turned to him with what looked like a small gun. "It's just a local anesthetic, but it'll keep." He tried to protest as she stuck the end just below the bandage and pulled the trigger. "You from hurting too much." The thing hissed and Naruto jumped, feeling something get injected into his side, which stung like hell before a good portion of his side went numb. "Damn, that was quick." "Yeah, just be careful. You won't be able to tell if you ripped anything because of it, so keep an eye on it, okay?" He nodded and she tapped a few things on her tablet. "Hey Gloria, thank you for this." While he wasn't completely sure, with how the city seemed to run, he was certain that she was going beyond what she was supposed to. Cammy once told him about how those trauma team jackasses would leave you for dead if you didn't pay for one of their packages, or weren't willing to pay right then for their services. Even if you could afford the most basic care from them, you wouldn't get anything for the pain. It only made sense to him that the city's emergency medical teams would have to operate on the same basis. His eye lit up and she turned to look at him in shock as she got a message from him with his deets. "You're sticking your neck out for me, both you and your partner. If either of you need anything at all, just ask. I really appreciate this." Gloria felt a lump in her throat at that. She'd stolen from him and here he was thanking her and offering to pay her back. Yeah, they were sticking their necks out for him, but even if they got busted she was certain that they'd get a formal reprimand at the most. "You don't have to, really." "Yeah, but I want to. You seem like a good person. Haven't seen too many people like that around Night City." "Oh, just keep kicking me, why don't you?" She saved the number either way, maybe she'd just call and check up on him later. After all, she had told herself a few times that she'd try and make it up to him. "Hey you two, we're here," Danny called from the driver's seat with a whistle. "Bunch of Valentinos there too. You sure this is the place?" The rig came to a stop at the corner of Los Lobos and Skyline East in Vista del Rey, down the road from the bar. "Yeah, this is the place." Naruto stood up from the gurney they'd made him sit on, easing himself onto his feet, expecting his side to protest the movement, but to his surprise he felt nothing. "Wow, that stuff works," he mused, poking at the bandage. "Can't feel a." Gloria grabbed his wrist and pinched the back of his hand. "Gonk, didn't I say not to mess with it?" She snapped, eyes wide. "You might open it and bleed more." "Ow, sorry, I thought you had to swear some kinda hypocritical oath to do no harm," he joked, shaking his hand and rubbing it against his knee to ease the stinging. "That's the Hippocratic Oath." Danny chuckled from the front. "And yeah, it's hypocritical in the end with how some of the city's doctors treat people." "And to answer your question," she chimed back in, "no, we don't." The redhead moved to support him as he moved, heading to the back doors ahead of him. "I reserve the right to smack a gonk that doesn't listen when I say not to do something." Opening the door, she let him climb out. The normally busy street that would have dozens of people walking back and forth going about their day was strangely empty aside from a few brave souls. Further down the street he could see several Valentinos hanging around the bar, their vehicles lining the sides of the roads. He looked around for a moment and chuckled. "Thanks again, you two." The driver leaned to look out the back and gave him a wave, which he returned. "I'll pay you back for helping me. Just let me know how I can help, all right?" Gloria nodded after a moment. "Okay chum, I'll let you know." She didn't really want to tell him no, but she also didn't want him to try and repay her. She was trying to repay him after all. "Stay safe out there and here, don't forget your stuff." "I'll try." He accepted his damaged mask and vest, the blood on them already half dry and tacky to the touch. "Thanks again." With that, Naruto stepped back a couple paces and watched as she closed the door. A few seconds later the ambulance pulled a U-turn and headed on its way with the driver, Danny giving him another little wave while he could see Gloria moving to sit in the passenger seat. XXX. "Well, what do you know?" Danny mused with a shit-eating grin as they stopped at the red light. "Looks like you got his number after all." "Oh fuck off, he sent it to you too," she grumbled, crossing her arms. When the light changed, he pulled onto the next street and continued his way back to the office. "Yeah, but I got a mainline." "Oh no," Gloria covered her face for a moment. No, we aren't going there. I'm not trying to hook up with him." She leaned back and glanced over to see his girl get bigger. "I'm not." "I didn't say anything." That shit-eating grin says it all. Besides, he's too young. He can't be more than what, 20-something. When he didn't reply, she rolled her eyes and shifted in her seat to face him, crossing her arms. "What? Come on, let's hear it. I know your chrome is about to overheat. You want to say it so bad." "What?" He pursed his lips together, trying not to laugh. "I'm not thinking anything, definitely not thinking a single thing about how my chum needs a good interfacing from." Gloria started swatting at him, making him lean away while driving. He laughed and continued, raising his arm to block her hits, a sexy blonde with gorgeous blue eyes packing some serious heat down there. "I can't believe you." She blushed at the thought. "You scanned his." "Didn't have to. Didn't you see the pistol he was packing?" Danny asked, glancing at her. If not for the rig's onboard computer helping with the driving, he'd probably have caused an accident. Lucky it auto-corrected for most things and sensed other cars on the road. "What did you think I meant?" XXX. Looking down at himself, Naruto grimaced. He wished he had time to get cleaned up at least, but he was already running late. "Guess Kakashi-sensei rubbed off on me more than I thought." The thought brought a small smirk to his face with a little chuckle. Hopefully his state wouldn't cause too big of a scene, but somehow he felt that was merely wishful thinking. His cyber arm was basically gone, nothing but small jagged pieces of metal and wires. His shirt was in tatters, most of the torso shredded and bloodstained with bandages wrapped around him. Luckily it didn't look like it had bled through, so hopefully he'd be fully healed sooner rather than later. The bandage on his face and ear itched, but he'd rather keep it on than freak Mama Wells out by letting her see the chuck that had been taken out of him. He was just thankful that fucking homing bullet didn't hit bone. That would have really fucked his day up. His pants were also fucked, the orange fabric covered in all manner of stains, cut, torn, scorched in some places. He was so grateful for the reinforced seat of his pants, he was certain his ass would be hanging out if not for that little addition. I definitely have to get new pants. He could never find badass pants like these that were orange. The few shops he asked about them acted like he was trying to buy black lace. Several Valentinos were hanging around the front of El Coyote Cojo, chatting, drinking, and smoking while leaning on their cars or against the wall to the bar. As he got closer, some noticed him approaching and started nudging the others, nodding towards him and saying something he couldn't hear from where he was. When he didn't immediately cut across the street to pass by them like several others had, they started shifting as if expecting trouble. One finally spoke up, stepping towards him. "I'm thinking you're in the wrong place, Holmes. This is a private affair." He told him, looking the blonde up. "If you're looking a ripper, you're definitely in the wrong place." "Nah." Naruto nodded his head towards the bar. "I'm at the right place." He kept pace, heading to the door. "Here for her memorial." The Latino stepped in front of him as he tried to walk past. "I don't think so. Like I said, this is a private gathering." He crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes. "I'm trying to be half-ass civil for the boss's sake. Do us both a favor and turn around." As he said that, the 7 other Valentinos moved, ready to jump in if needed. Not gonna let some random-ass gonk crash his little sister's ofrenda. "Look, I've had a long couple of days," Naruto started with a sigh. "I don't have any problems with you. I'm here for my girl's memorial and I do not want to miss it. So please, just move out of my way and let me go inside to say goodbye." He stepped in close to the man, head bowed. "I will go through you if I have to." XXX. Unaware of what was brewing outside, Mama Wells cleared her throat and let everyone know that it was time to begin, and everyone started nearing the corner of the room by the stairs where she'd set up her memorial. After waiting another minute for everyone to get situated, she nodded to Gustavo on the couch and looked at the gathered crowd, many of which she'd known for years. "Everyone, thank you all for coming today," she called out to them, causing the murmuring to die down. "We are all here today to honor the memory of someone close to us all and to say goodbye." Her hands clenched together several times as she looked at the gathered faces. "I will not tell you what kind of a woman Camilla was or how much I will miss her." They watched as she stepped over to the small table next to the couch and picked something up from the table beside it. Returning to the front of the table, she held an old, dusty bottle in her arms. "I've known Cammy ever since she was a Nino. I've been blessed with several wonderful hijos, but she was the hija I never had." She started, eyes full of unshed tears. "I remember the times she would help me cook. Not too long ago she was with me, asking me to teach her some more." She held out the bottle. "She gave this to me years ago and I've kept it safe ever since. I wanted to share it with her on a most special occasion." The woman looked at the bottle, turning to face the table. "I had the perfect time planned out too." "I'm sorry, dear." Jackie watched his mama place the bottle down carefully next to a few other trinkets given to honor her memory. A rosary from the Padre, Camilla's old straight razor from back in their wilder days, several handwritten notes from her friends saying how much they'd miss her. Gustavo stood up, his girl placing a comforting hand on his arm as he did. "I was never the best hermano. Me and Camilla." He shook his head with a little snort. "Well, we've had more than our fair share of fights. I remember missing her birthday one day even though I promised to show up, and damn did she let me have it. Knocked me flat on my ass and I had to get these." He grinned, showing 3 golden teeth. "I never broke another promise to my little sister." A tear fell down his cheek. "Dios mío, I wish it had been me instead of her." Gustavo reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wrinkled photo, leaning it against the bottle. Mama Wells sat there earlier. "Love you, Hermanita." There was a loud banging behind the crowd as the front door opened with enough force to dent the wall. Again, as one, everyone turned to see a young Valentino slide across the floor, knocking over a stool which made even more noise as it tipped over and clattered to the ground partially on top of the groaning man. The Padre, who was upstairs overlooking the ofrenda, stepped back with Marcus stepping half in front of him just in case, his pistol in hand. He didn't expect anything to go down here of all places with the amount of muscle here, but there was the lingering worry that some 6th Street gangoon would try something stupid. Several others had the same thoughts as well and were palming discreetly hidden weapons. Gustavo was gritting his teeth, face turning red at the thought of someone ruining his sister's ofrenda. "Sorry," a voice called out, throwing everyone for a loop. "Sorry I'm late." Looking through the crowd, Jackie couldn't believe his eyes as Naruto staggered in, looking like he'd just fought the entirety of the last Corpo War with his vest thrown over his shoulder and his mask hanging half out of his pocket. A few feet away, Gustavo was about to bark out something, but Jackie surged forward. "Santa Mierda, Naruto." He headed towards the blonde, his mother hot on his heels through the group that quickly made way. "Chico estupido." Naruto winced at the tone Jackie's mother used, feeling like a small child as she ranted at him, unable to understand her as she laid into him in Spanish. He was certain she would have smacked him like Jackie warned if he didn't look like shit already. "And just look at what you've done to yourself." I'm fine," he tried to calm her down, which had the opposite effect by sending her into another rant as she pointed at his missing arm then the various other bandages. The people around them slowly relaxed and went from on guard to visibly confused as only a few of the guests recognized the newcomer. "Holy shit, Holmes." Jackie looked him up and down. "Are you good?" "I mean." "No, Jackie, I'm not good," he admitted as he looked past them and spotted the memorial. "I lost the woman I love." The ones close enough to hear that were surprised. They'd heard about Camilla's new output, but many hadn't had a chance to see him in person before. Those that had talked to Camilla before only knew that he did some kinda solo edgerunner type work and that she was head over heels for him. He winced. "Ah, yeah, but I meant," he pointed at the bandage around his side, which had started to turn red as the wound reopened a bit. Naruto looked down and winced, pressing his hand against it. "You need help. Vic's around here somewhere." "Oh, that. No, it can wait a while, just a lucky shot." He grinned half-heartedly. "I didn't miss it, did I?" "Foolish boy." Mama Wells sighed, rubbing her face at the disregard he had for his own health. "No. We've only just started." Good, I didn't want to miss it. As they headed towards where the memorial was taking place, someone went and helped the Valentino he'd thrown through the door up. The Padre's eye raised as the blonde walked towards little Camilla's urn, the crowd parting for him like the Red Sea. Marcus, have our people found out what he's done? He placed a hand on the larger man's shoulder as he stepped aside, relaxing now that he knew there wasn't a threat. And see to it that his medical expenses are taken care of. For services rendered, he'd avenged his little Camilla. Yes, it was a selfish vengeance on the blonde's part, but either way, he heard that the two at the garage suffered for their part in her death, and that was enough for him. Naruto idly noticed the man standing by the table with Kami's urn, a large, well-dressed, well-groomed man wearing a red floral print shirt with a large collar under a black vest. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see the man staring at him hard, but most of his attention went to the picture next to her urn. It was an older picture, he figured. Before Kami dyed her hair blue, she also had a golden cross hanging from her ear, the same cross the man staring at him wore. "So you're Naruto," the man finally said after a few moments. "You and me. We are gonna have a talk." Naruto shrugged off the plate carrier he was still carrying over his shoulder and leaned it against the table leg. "Babe, not here," the woman sitting on the couch whispered, reaching out and touching his hand. When he looked back at her, she motioned to the other onlookers along with his friend Jackie, who was looking at him while motioning to not make a scene. Mama Wells stepped between the two. "Let's continue. Camilla's a friend, all right." Her tone left no room for arguments as she looked at the two of them. "Naruto, please have a seat." "Gustavo," she stared at him hard and the man grumbled. Neither were certain, but when they were made to sit next to each other on the couch, they both felt like she was treating them like a pair of children that couldn't get along. Especially as she stood across from them and would glance over every now and then. The ofrenda continued. Several people took turns approaching the table. Some brought up little items and left them on the table. A couple would tell a little story or give a little speech about how good of a friend she was to them. Naruto found himself lost in the stories about her, picturing it in his mind as they spoke. After the last person spoke, Mama Wells stepped forward. "Would anyone else like to speak?" He stood up, surprising both her and himself as he approached the memorial, looking at her picture one more time before facing the crowd. "Kami, she meant the world to me. She found me at probably my lowest point here in Night City and showed me the better sides of the city." He closed his eyes, remembering their first dates. "I'll always cherish the memories I have of her. Someone once told me that so long as we hold on to those memories, our loved ones will always be there. That they'll never fade away." He turned away from the crowd and faced her urn, eyes tearing up and a lump forming in his throat. "Kami, I'm so sorry. I can't help but keep thinking if I'd just stayed, if I hadn't left the city, that I could have done something. That I could have saved you. I hate those bastards that took you from me and now." He took a few deep breaths, tears now falling down his cheeks. I killed them all, and I loved every second of it, but now I just hate myself. God, all those people, what would you even think of me?" Several uncomfortable looks were shared among those in attendance as he casually admitted to killing those responsible. Those more in the know took it as a confirmation that not only did he launch a campaign of vengeance against one of the main street gangs in the city, he took them on and won. Reaching down, he grabbed his broken, blood-spattered mask from his pocket and stared at it for a moment. "I love you, baby girl, rest easy, and I'm sorry if I let you down." Slowly, he set the mask down next to her picture and stepped away. Gustavo saw the mask and felt his heart sink. Looking down at the vest the blonde had dropped, he just could see the faded 6 painted on the back and connected the dots, realizing that his little sister's input was the fucking Shino. It felt like a horrible fucking joke. His baby sister was killed by members of 6th Street, but she was in love with the Shino. And he killed the ones that did it. The more he thought about it, the more his head spun. The bar was already quiet when he first started, but now, with his admission, it was silent. To break the awkward silence, Mama Wells stepped in, tears also falling down her cheeks. "I would like to say a toast." Pepe stepped up with a few dozen shots he'd prepared earlier, letting everyone who wanted grab one. Feeling a hand on his shoulder, Naruto turned to see her offering a small square glass to him with a sad smile, which he took, feeling half numb. "Thank you." Grabbing her own glass, she raised it up. "To our dear Camilla." "To Camilla," they all called out. Taking one last look at her picture, Naruto raised his glass. "To you, baby girl," then downed the liquor in one go, letting it burn the whole way down. The crowd behind them dispersed. Some of Camilla's friends said their goodbyes and left, thanking Mama Wells for a beautiful ofrenda and how much they'd miss their chum. A couple of the girls looked like they wanted to speak to him, wanting to talk to the guy she'd told them about before but never introduced them to, but the look in his eyes set them on edge. "Goddamn kid," Vic muttered while looking him over. "Look, I'm gonna head to the shop and get things ready. Get there ASAP, you understand?" The genuine worry in his voice made Naruto feel a bit worse. "Well, at least it's better than last time. You didn't melt anything, right?" "Nah, not this time, Vic," he replied. The suspicious look Vic gave him earned a small grin. "I promise, nothing melted. Blown up maybe." He wiggled the cyber stump. "But I'll be there in a few. I just need to speak to a few people first." XXX. Rico sighed, holding a ice-cold brosif to his forehead as he finally got home and said fuck it. 6th Street was in a panic with all the gonks that Psycho Kid flatlined. Morton was slinging orders left, right and fucking center, putting out fires wherever he could, and the only saving grace was that Gunner had gone quiet. Hopefully those two psychos zeroed each other, he thought with a snort before sighing. He didn't actually hope the kid died, he was just annoyed and pissy with all the shit going on. His sister was finally speaking to him again. Well, she was screaming at him since his niece, her daughter, had been held hostage because of him and had just left him a rather nasty, hurtful text which she later apologized for. Beep. Looking at the call he was receiving, hoping it wasn't his sister changing her mind to scream at him some more, he nearly choked on his beer when he saw who it was on the caller ID. The Psycho Kid. "Oh fuck that," he muttered, rejecting the call. He wasn't fucking with him anymore, his nose was still swollen and his face was more bruised than before. He went back to his beer and let the hollow play as some background noise while contemplating on whether or not to break out the res or go get a Scott burger. After ignoring another call, he groaned as it lit up and notified him of a message. Fuck it, might as well. Opening it, he blinked at the short and simple yet highly threatening message. "Answer the call or we'll have this talk face to face." He stared at it for a second before it rang again. Beep. "Yeah kid, what is it?" "Gunner's dead." He blinked at the information, figured that I owed it to you to at least let you know. He and his boys took over a floor of Megabuilding H6. And his boys. Dead. He sighed and took a sip of his beer, smoking up his stash of res was looking mighty tempting now, so that's it. "Not yet, I have a message I want you to pass on to your general." He hummed in return, "The war between 6th Street and the Valentinos, it's over. The shit with Gunner should have never happened in the first place, so keep your people in line or else, and make it clear that if he continues this gang war, I will step in and no one's gonna like the results. Goodbye Rico." The line went dead and automatically closed on his end, leaving him wide-eyed at the threat and made his next decision much simpler. He was done. He'd help Morton pick up the pieces, but after that, he was done with 6th Street. The next day. XXX. While he wasn't planning on avoiding the Coyote Coho, Naruto was a bit surprised to find himself returning so soon. Originally, he planned on taking a few days to rest and recover from his wounds. He'd also take the time to properly mourn the loss of his love now that he'd avenged her. But of course, there was always something coming up demanding his attention, it seemed. Walking through the back door, Naruto took in the sight of the bar in full swing and smiled sadly, remembering some of the fun he'd had here with her in the past. The pool table had been moved back and a couple of regulars were deep in the middle of a game. Judging from the small pile of eddies on the corner of the table, it looked like a bet had been made and had attracted a few spectators. Behind the bar, Pepe saw him enter and raised a hand in greeting. He looked like he was about to call out until the guy at the bar said something, holding out several eddies to catch the bartender's attention. Several Valentinos noticed him and nodded, a gesture he returned. He recognized a few of them. One was even the guy who challenged him by throwing knives at a makeshift target. The one that was nearest motioned over his side, where the small nook with Camilla's memorial was still sitting. He nodded and stepped around the corner where he found Cammy's brother, Gustavo, sitting, hunched forward and leaning against his knees with a depressed look on his face. His girl, also dressed in the usual flashy Valentino style, leaned against him while rubbing his back in a comforting manner. "Sorry about the wait, Gustavo," Naruto spoke as he saw them, making the man look up and over to him. "You said you wanted to talk, right?" When the man sat up and nodded, he did the same and nodded back. "Good, 'cause I wanna talk to you too." Looking around, he saw a chair sitting next to the wall and picked it up, setting it down across from the man. "So, what's up?" The man looked at him for a moment then chuckled, shaking his head. "You know, when my sister told me she was seeing someone, my first instinct was to hunt you down and have a much different kind of talk with you." He glanced over to the table, looking at her picture, then the mask still sitting by it. "She probably would have tried to knock my teeth out again too." He chuckled, his gaze lowering to the vest still sitting against the table leg. If you didn't zero me first, he thought to himself for a moment before squeezing his girl's thigh, why don't you go get a drink, babe? She looked between the two and nodded, pulling her arm out from behind him. You want me to bring you one? She asked, her high-pitched voice sounding oddly synthetic, which made Naruto notice the implants in her throat. Her lover shook his head and she stood up. All right, I'll be by the bar. She leaned down and kissed his temple before walking away and leaving them alone. It's a stupid question now. He started once she got a little further away. I planned on asking you if you really loved my little sister. Naruto snorted at the question. Yeah, I mean, what kinda gonk does what you did Looking back, Naruto leaned back into the chair and sighed. I regret a lot of what I did. I killed a lot of people, hurt a lot of families. Don't get me wrong, I don't regret killing the ones responsible, but I could have gone about it in a different way. The two fell into a slight awkward silence, the usual sounds of the bar around them filling it. I have to ask you, hombre. Naruto looked up and met the other man's eyes when he spoke. Do I have to worry about you dropping my ass? Gustavo had to ask. He'd spent the entire time since this gang war started worried that the 6th Street Shino would pop up and flatline him. It felt like a foolish question to ask now, but he couldn't help but have that little worry in the back of his mind. You don't have to worry about it. I ain't got any problems with you, Gustavo. He looked thoughtful for a moment before shrugging. Unless you plan on trying to kill me, that is. The man chuckled weakly. Nah, nothing like that. Camilla would come back just to strangle me. He sighed as the blonde's answer took a major worry off his shoulders. Look, I know you're with 6th Street, but Naruto cut him off. No, I'm done with them. He crossed his arms and frowned. Our agreement was over as soon as I found out what they did. Besides, I was only helping them with internal gang shit. He told the man about Gunner and the Civil War in 6th Street's ranks, which got the man thinking. We could use this to our advantage, the Valentino boss mused out loud, could push them back like they wanted to do to us and... No. He looked at the blonde half confused, half angry. No. The fuck you mean? No. The ones responsible are dead, he stressed to the other man. Your boys also hit them back several times from what I hear, so I'd say the score is settled between the two gangs. Gustavo grit his teeth. Even. They killed my boys, my broders, he hissed while clenching the arm of the couch as tight as his gold-plated chrome hand would allow. Those purrs tried to dust me and killed mi familia, mi hermanita. Naruto didn't flinch as the man snarled at him in a cold rage. They took her from me. She was too amor, your love, and they took her from you. They deserve. Do not bring her into this, Naruto hissed back. The ones responsible are dead. He leaned forward in his chair and stared at the man in his face. I've already hurt enough people and I'm not gonna let more innocent people suffer. I said no. This war is over, he stressed. You think it's over just because you say it is, you estupido hijo de puta. He stood up suddenly to tower over the blonde. You think just because you got your revenge that I don't get mine. The bar got eerily quiet around them, not that they noticed. Even if I agreed, you think those 6th Street gonk fucks will just crawl back like nothing happened? Naruto stood up as well, standing face to face with the man. You're Kami's brother and you're hurting. He narrowed his eyes and leaned in close, nearly nose to nose with Gustavo. That's the only reason why I'm not gonna put you through that goddamn wall behind you. The man tried to hide the nervous twitch he got as the blonde raised his cyber arm and poked him in the chest. You can call me what you want, you can hate me, curse me, can wish all kinda bad shit on me, but you're gonna fucking listen to me when I say no, and that there's not gonna be any more war between the Valentinos and 6th Street. Whoa whoa whoa, easy fellas, Pepe called out, him and Martha quickly making their way over to try and defuse the situation, fearing a fight was about to break out. Come on, let's not do anything too rash, alright. Martha slipped past Pepe and jumped between the two men, wrapping her arms around Gustavo despite the healing wound she still had. Babe, please, you gotta keep a cool head. Seeing how the girl acted made Naruto's heart ache, that tense feeling he felt quickly dissipating. He shook his head and backed off while the girl whispered to Gustavo, making him deflate more and more before finally huffing. Pepe glanced at the two Valentinos for a moment before rounding on Naruto. You good, mano? Yeah, I'm good, Pepe. Just a little disagreement is all, he told the man, waving off the fact that it had come pretty close to blows before turning back to the other man. But we're good now, right, Gustavo? He looked up from Martha and nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess so. After another couple of moments, the pair sat down again, tempers cooled somewhat. Pepe returned to the bar. glancing back at them every now and then as if he was worried that they'd jump back at each other's throats as soon as he looked away. Martha gave them a pleading look, not wanting to be sent away again and leave them alone for fear of the same thing. Just let her stay, Gustavo, Naruto finally huffed. If it'll make her feel better. The man relented and she joined him on the couch, but either way, I'm not changing my mind. I don't want any more innocents to suffer from this war. The man visibly tensed up until the woman placed a calming hand on his arm, making him take a breath through clenched teeth. Okay then. What do you suggest, huh? Looking thoughtful, Naruto crossed his arms and looked down. You go back to the way things were. Back to your own business. The Valentinos and 6th Street go back to avoiding shit with each other on the street. You just handle your people. Make it clear that the fighting is over. I'm not saying that you all have to get along, but there won't be any open fighting in the streets. He told them, looking back up at the pair with confidence. And what about them? I'll make sure they understand the same, he told them simply, nodding at his own words. The man looked at Naruto with a doubtful gaze, crossing his own arms while Martha leaned into his shoulder. And what makes you think they'll listen? Then I'll go and make sure they understand that they won't just be going up against the Valentinos. He leaned towards the pair across from him again. They'll be going against me, and the same goes to any Valentino that wants to do the same. And I mean any Valentino. Those blue eyes seemed to turn to ice, chilling the two lovers. Gustavo bowed his head, looking thoughtful for a minute. The others could feel the tension in the bar, doubly so for the nearby Valentinos that had been listening in on the pair. Out of the corner of his eye he could see the vest on the floor, the faded 6 reminding him just who he was dealing with. Fine, Dios te maldiga. He finally growled out, you get those hijos de perra to agree and I'll make it happen. Naruto took out his cell and dialed the number to Rico. He waited for a bit and rolled his eyes as it was ignored. Just a second, we're not really on speaking terms at the moment. He sent a message and waited a moment before standing up, disconnecting it from his Chrome and turning on the speaker as the man answered. Yeah kid, what is it? Gunner's dead, he told the man, remembering that he hadn't spoken to the man in a while. Figured that I owed it to you to at least let you know. He and his boys took over a floor of megabuilding H6. And his boys? The blonde looked Gustavo in the eye, dead. There was a pause on the other end followed by a sigh. So that's it? Not yet. I have a message I want you to pass on to your general. He walked a few steps, looking at the few Valentinos that were watching nearby. The war between 6th Street and the Valentinos, it's over. The shit with Gunner should have never happened in the first place, so keep your people in line or else. He paced back, looking at Gustavo and Martha's while speaking loud enough for them all to hear. And make it clear that if he continues this gang war, I will step in and no one's gonna like the results. Naruto turned to look at Gustavo, who looked both relieved and annoyed. Goodbye Rico. Ending the holocall, Naruto reconnected himself with the holo before crossing both arms. There, I'm pretty sure 6th Street will get the message. He looked away and gave the man a short chuckle. You know, all things considered, Gustavo, I wouldn't have minded calling you my brother. That right, you think I'd let a gonk like you marry Camilla? The man looked at him with a raised eye and a small smirk. If she said yes, Naruto mused with a shrug, I doubt you could stop her if that's what she wanted. Gustavo snorted. True enough, Mirta, imagine if Jackie's madre got involved too. He gave the man a sad smile, then looked at the memorial for a bit. I gotta go, got some things to take care of today. The ninja turned and started towards the door, where one of the Valentinos moved out of his way, acting like he hadn't been eavesdropping half the time. Hey, Naruto stopped and looked back as the man asked. We good homes? Yeah, we're good, Gustavo. With that said, he continued on his way and walked around the corner to leave out the back door, leaving the man to deflate into his girl with a long sigh. XXX. Later on that afternoon, Naruto decided to return to Kami's place in Vista del Rey. He couldn't just avoid the place, and even knowing how painful it would be to come back here again without her, he knew it would be even more painful to keep away from the memories. Hey old man, he called out as he neared the old homeless man's makeshift home by the dumpster, you around? When he didn't get a response, he shrugged and started to walk on by. But after a couple of steps he stopped. What if the old guy was hurt? What if he was lying inside there and needed help? He had to make sure at least. Doubling back, he neared the structure, breathing through his mouth to avoid the smell, as he called out, hey, you in there? While tapping on the metal dumpster. Grabbing the edge of the tarp the man used as his doorway, he grimaced, God don't let him be dead in here. Jerking off. Peeking in, Naruto sighed in relief seeing that he wasn't there. He was most likely off wandering the area, probably checking the dumpster behind one of the skop shacks down the road. Feeling a bit better, he continued on his way and entered the apartment building, nodding to some of the random folks he passed who mostly acted like he didn't exist, their attention on other things. Heading up the stairs, as the elevator was still and probably would always be out of order, he got to Cammy's floor and stopped. Standing at her door, Naruto saw a man wearing dirty gray coveralls with a tool belt around his waist and a tablet in his hand that connected to Cammy's door via a cord. Next to him a younger woman grumbled, a roll of blue plastic in her chrome hands. "Hurry up already, got better things to do than wait on your ass," she complained as Naruto got closer. "What's taking so long, ya gonk? Just unlock it already." "I'm going as fast as I can," he snapped back. "Damn tech's older than your whining ass." "Hey," Naruto barked, his voice echoing down the hall, "what the hell do you think you're doing?" He could feel a cold anger building up in his chest. The woman looked at him and rolled her eyes. "First off, mind your own business. Second, I don't know who you think you're snapping at." "What the fuck?" he growled out as he stopped a few feet from them. "Are you doing breaking in there?" "I ain't breaking in," the guy answered. "I'm the building's maintenance guy. Got the call that the chick renting this place flatlined." He pointed at the woman with his thumb. "Bitch it's here's gonna bag up her shit and toss it out. Already got a new tenant lined up." Naruto's eyes widened. "You. What?" The woman, who couldn't have been more than 19, groaned. "Fuck you Kenny and you. You slow or something," he said. "I know what the fuck he said." The blonde snapped, trembling. "You can't just throw her stuff out. Besides I know the rent's been paid, it's paid up for another fucking month." "Yeah well that chick's dead," she shrugged. "She shouldn't have paid early, probably would. I paid that goddamn rent," he growled pointing a finger at the pair, "and it's not about the fucking eddies. You want to go through her stuff, our stuff and throw it out like it's trash. Like she didn't matter." Kenny, the maintenance guy, looked really uncomfortable. "She might not have meant nothing to someone like you but she mattered to me." "You'll get over it." The girl once again shrugged. "Only one name on the lease and she's donezo. Shoulda hopped on the lease too and we wouldn't be having this convo. You could be bagging up her shit yourself instead of me having to do it." Naruto stilled and went quiet. "Now, if you don't mind, how about you Delta before I have you thrown out huh? Kenny, open this bitch's door so I can toss her shit out into the trash and..." Seeing the man take a step back, the girl raised an eyebrow. "Hey, you hear me? Hey dude, I don't want any trouble okay?" Turning, the girl came face to face with the barrel of Naruto's pistol. Her name was Camilla, he whispered, cocking the hammer which changed the girl's tune. "She died and all I got left of her is the few things she had in there and the memories. If you think for 1 second that I'm gonna let some stupid little bitch like you go in there and trample those memories then you got another thing coming. You fucking stupid," the girl demanded, half scared and half angry. "You gonna pull a gonk move over some dead?" The pistol fired and she fell to the ground with a scream, her ears ringing. After a panicked minute of checking herself over, she realized that the man hadn't shot her but shot a hole in the wall next to her. Kenny had also ducked, his tablet bouncing off the ground as he dropped it, the cord connecting it to Cammy's door popping out. "I've done much worse things in her name," he growled while stepping forward, making her scramble back. But he wasn't following her. He leaned down and picked up the roll of bags she'd dropped. "I'll pack her stuff up my goddamn self." Stepping to the door, it got his signature off his chrome and opened with ease. "I'm not about to let someone like you touch any of her stuff." The door closed, leaving the two alone in the hallway. As the door closed, Naruto stood there for a second, breathing heavily before slinging the roll of trash bags as hard as he could across the room, the plastic missile hitting the wall-mounted hollow which shuddered and cocked sideways. He was overreacting, he knew it, but the way she disregarded Cammy like she didn't even matter pissed him off. Acting like all of her stuff here was nothing but trash. All they cared about was getting a new paying tenant in here to make some more eddies. Naruto knew he went too far by pulling his pistol. Deep down he knew that it wasn't just to scare her. He had been so close to killing her and was ashamed of himself. Sitting down on the edge of the bed, Naruto buried his face in his hands and sighed for a few minutes before lowering his hands to look around. He didn't have much here at all, just some clothes and a couple small items here and there. Cammy had a bit more, clothing and beauty products mostly, although in his opinion she never needed any to look amazing. Thinking about it he grinned a little. Yeah, she definitely looked amazing without clothes. Might as well, he thought to himself before forcing himself to stand. Fuck putting anything of hers in a trash bag though, he'll seal it away. He wouldn't treat her stuff like that. Going through her stuff was depressing, he had to stop several times to get himself together. The clothing she left by the bed still smelled like her, a sweet floral scent that once made his heart flutter but now made it ache. While cleaning out the dresser, he found her stash, a small metal lockbox covered in stickers. Inside she kept the few party favors, as she jokingly called them, the air hypo loaded with synth coke, her resin, some small capsules in a bottle labeled SIN. The thought of using them had crossed his mind but he decided not to. For now at least. Hidden behind her stash, Naruto found a plastic shopping bag with something inside and pulled it out. There seemed to be a box inside that rattled when he shook it. Curiosity overtook him and he unraveled and shook out the contents in the now empty drawer where a single data shard and a small white box covered in small writing fell out, the words, NCMT pregnancy test, emblazoned on the sides. What the? It was open. Picking it up, he felt the object inside rattle and shook it out into his hand so he could see it. While he wasn't the smartest man, it didn't take a genius to read the thing. It was used, the little screen on the front bearing the words, pregnant, with a bold positive symbol next to it. She was. Scrambling to pick up the shard, he looked it over and slotted it into himself, taking a couple of tries to get it fitted correctly. It seemed to take forever for the shard to open and show him the contents inside. It had to have something about the test. Lines of data scrolled past his view before opening on an archived entry dated nearly a month back. Hey Naru, guess what? I'm no. Too childish. I'm excited to announce that definitely no. Gross. What am I, some corpo ho? Naruto, I know we've only known each other for a few months but I can honestly say that I've never felt this way before. That I've never loved someone as much as I do when it comes to you and Why is this so hard to get right? Mama Wells and Pepe say I should just come right out and say it but every time I try it's like I short circuit the words delta from my mind. I'm just laying on your chest looking at you right now and I feel so nervous to tell you, I want to more than anything but. I should just yell it at you right now. Just wake you up and yell, hey babe, you knocked me up and I'm gonna have you baby and I'm so fucking excited. He couldn't read anymore. A baby. His child, their child, they were gonna have a child. He was going to be a father. At least, he had been. The trembling was back, his breathing hitched, tears filled his eyes again as the test fell to the floor from his trembling fingers. Screaming, Naruto grabbed the drawer and slung it against the opposite wall, the cheap material breaking with ease as he roared, then took the dresser itself and flung it as well. They were gonna be a family. The one thing he truly wanted his entire life. He had it and once again it was taken from him. He wanted to be angry. He wanted to rage, to make something pay for the pain he was feeling. But everyone responsible was already dead, he'd already avenged his love and unknowingly, his child. All he could do was continue to hurt himself by raging blindly, fingers tightly clenching his face. After a while, his broken screams turned to sobs, all the pain he'd felt before returning stronger than ever until all he could do was collapse in the corner of the room, his back pressed against the wall as he slid to the floor with his knees to his chest. He sat there curled into a ball for what felt like hours, his body racked with sobs until he fell asleep exhausted, just mentally and physically worn down to the bone. XXX. The next afternoon. XXX. Seeing the blonde enter from the front door, Pepe looked up from his convo with the boss lady at the bar and smiled, hey Jefe, look who's here. Naruto, Hermano, it's good to see you. The man called out with a grin as the man made a beeline towards the bar. He placed both hands on the bar to lean against it, slowly losing his grin when he noticed how red the blonde's eyes were and not the glowing red he'd seen before. Naruto, Guadalupe aka Mama Wells, turned on the stool to see the blonde approaching. It's so good you're here, she started, trailing off at the serious look he had. Everything okay, Naru? Like a snake from one of those nature vids, Naruto lashed out and grabbed the man across the bar by his vest. You knew. He snarled, yanking the man off his feet and across the bar. You fucking knew and didn't tell me. Several bottles and mugs that had been on the bar were knocked to the floor as Peep's large frame was pulled across it, the commotion drawing the attention of everyone in the bar. Mama Wells nearly fell from the stool as Pepe was pulled by her, the beer she'd been sipping spilling across her pants and shirt. Pepe grunted as he hit the floor hard on his shoulder. He groaned for a moment but the blonde didn't give him long before he was jerked over and forced to look at him. Mano, what the hell? You knew she was pregnant. Naruto was bent over him, holding his upper body up by the vest. You knew and you didn't say a word to me. He growled, making the pair pale. In all the shock from him showing up the way he did the day before at Camilla's ofrenda, they'd forgotten to pull him aside. Why? He demanded, shaking the man. Why wouldn't you tell me that she was carrying my child? Peep's eyes widened when he saw the blonde cock his fist back. Naruto, stop, she called out, rushing over and grabbing his arm. It's not his fault. His arm didn't budge, she could feel the muscles in his arm tremble. It's my fault, I made him keep it from you. Why? To their relief, Naruto slowly lowered his fist and let the man go. For a moment, Pepe sat on his ass in the middle of the floor and took a deep breath, relaxing now that he wasn't about to get his teeth knocked out. Why would you keep that from me? He asked, looking hurt as he stood up and backed off from the man. The others in the bar weren't sure what to do, some drunkenly stared at the show while others tried not to look as obvious about it. I'm so sorry, Naruto, she told him while checking on Pepe, who waved her off as he went to stand himself up. But can you blame me? Look at what you've done. She approached him and pulled him towards the side of the bar. The state you were in when you got back, I was afraid you'd do something rash, and look at what you did. That's right, she stopped and looked to make sure no one was too close, then moved closer. I know about the warehouse, the garage, the mega building, all you did to avenge her. What would you have done to those people if I'd told you that soon? He bit his lip and looked away. She pulled him to her and hugged him. I'm sorry for keeping it from you. I didn't intend on hurting you like that, but I thought it was best to tell you after you had a moment to calm down. I didn't think you would go off to get payback as soon as you did. She patted his back a few times and noticed Pepe brushing himself off as he stood. And what are you gonks looking at? He called out at the onlookers, making them look away. Show's over. How did you find out? She asked softly. He pulled away from the hug looking ashamed of himself. She sniffed a couple times. I was packing her stuff up. Assholes in her building were planning on trashing it all. Found the tests in I don't know, her data shard diary, I guess. I read it. She wrote about how you two knew. He rubbed his red eyes, started thinking about it, about how you two kept it from me and got pissed. She looked closely at him and grabbed his face. Naruto, she looked at his eyes for a moment. Are you high? No. He looked away from her. Maybe. Yes. He finally admitted after a moment and turning to Pepe as he approached to get back behind the bar. Pepe, I am so sorry. Don't worry about it, he said, waving it off. Jefe's la chancla hurt worse, believe me. Sides, I'll just spit in your drinks for a while. That'll make me feel better. The man got behind the bar and looked at him. I'm joking, Mono. Or am I? Naruto rubbed his face for a moment and took a deep breath. Let me at least clean up the mess. It's my fault anyway. XXX. On board one of the Militech Manticore AVs, Meredith Stout looked over the deets provided by the company's investigation team with a low whistle. 32 bodies identified as members of 6th Street, all of them under the command of the gonk that Gilchrist was trying to cultivate as a company asset. An admirable little plan for certain, but far too short-sighted. Luckily her team was able to recover some of the Militech assets from that old warehouse before they walked off. What kind of half-assed plan was this? She muttered, going over the list of recovered assets. Standard issue weapons along with ammunition for each, multiple cases of FGX frags, EMP, char incendiary, and even flashbangs. The list also had several items marked as missing, such as a MK.31 HMG, a couple cases of tech weapons, and worryingly enough, several pieces of cyberware. No telling where that chrome was by now, and somehow, Gilchrist managed to only get a harsh reprimand and a black mark on his company file. How he managed that bared investigation. But the whole half-baked clusterfuck of a plan was only a footnote in the preverbal data shard. Combining through the footage, several more instances of the masked mercs being killed were discovered. No matter how they died, the result was the same. No blood, no body, just smoke. Her higher-ups want more information. She wanted more information, if nothing more than to make sense of what she'd seen. Ma'am, techs combed the footage again and believed they got a still of the one in charge. One of her men reported, his optics glowing as he acted as a go-between and relayed the information. Transmitting to you now. Opening the attachment, she crossed her arm under her chest and rubbed her chin in thought. Inside were several still frames from the attack, each one showing the same man with short blonde hair wearing a snarling mask over the bottom of his face. That mask, he connected to the tiger claws. She mused out loud. They also had a 6 painted on the back of their gear. Could be a confidence, but it was something she'd have looked into as well anyway. Tiger claws have loose ties to Arasaka, her PA noted, the young man tapping away at his datapad. Should I have our intel team dig into them? Don't be foolish, she frowned. Since that damn vid with the anti-grav tech surfaced, Arasaka counter intel been bending over backwards, probably to keep that tech from being stolen. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small metal cigarette case and frowned to find it empty. Contact Faraday, I think it's about time for him to earn his damn keep. He was a scope-rat bastard but he got results, which is mainly why she hadn't had the four-eyed gonk liquidated yet. Yes ma'am, should I arrange it through the usual cutout? She thought about it for a moment. No, I'll meet him myself. She crossed her legs and smirked. I hear he's chipped himself with 3 optics on the right side of his face. I always did enjoy a good freak show. The others shared a small chuckle while the PA did as he was ordered, his optics lighting up as he made the call. She wanted to know everything there was to know about the commander of this mystery squad. Names, dates, locations, associates, the who, what, when, where, and why that caused the entire shitshow. She wanted to know everything down to what brand they smoked, what liquor they drank, anything and everything. If possible then she even wanted to know what the gonk's favored position to fuck in was. XXX. 6 months later. XXX. You chooms hear of the newest boogeyman to grace our fair city. Some will tell you he's an ice-cold gato running solo. Others say he's got a team of runners on call, each just as deadly as the last. Hear tell that he used to work with 6th Street but word along the edge is that those cats had a falling out and check this, it was over a girl. Haha, it seems that a beauty tamed that beast. Some gangoons zeroed her and oh boy did the beast come out to play, that dust up where the overpass collapsed. Oh yeah, it was him. The massacre at the megabuilding. You know it. What's he up to now? Hell if I know. Some think he up and left the city, others think one of the corpos got him. Hell some even think that the boogeyman went and flatlined himself out of grief. But me, I think he's still out there, doing what he does best. Scav ops keep being found with nary a soul left to talk about it and no one hearing a thing. That gato's a ghost. XXX. The last few months have been hard to say the least. Cammie's death had already gutted him emotionally, then add the news that she'd been carrying their child. Well, he'd definitely seen better days. Mama Wells had taken him to the columbarium up in Westbrook to show him where her urn was placed and guarded by Arasaka security turrets. A glowing fully bloomed rose with a small rosebud marked her niche with her name appearing when he got near, the words, "She will always be with us. In our hearts and in our memories" glowing below it. He'd visited more than a few times afterwards on his own and truly felt like he understood why Kakashi-sensei would visit the memorial stone like he did. In his darkest moment there had even been a time where he'd contemplated just ending it. He would never admit to it but there was a night that he'd sat against the wall opposite her niche, drunk as shit with a pistol under his chin, just ready to end it all. A text from Mama Wells had probably saved his life that night, asking him to come over for dinner with her and Jackie. If they knew what he was thinking of doing then neither one would let on, but either way, he was so embarrassed and spent the next morning getting rid of the liquor he'd bought. Jackie was starting his solo career doing some small gigs for the Padre and some big-eared gonk named Kirk who claimed to be connected and supported by drug cartels. He'd even introduced them and Naruto did a job or two for the Fixer as a favor for Jackie when he couldn't do a gig due to some personal issue. He'd also handled a few personal requests for the Padre when the man needed and in return the Fixer was always willing to throw him a gig if needed or supply information in return. The gigs quickly became his way of staying busy, to keep his mind from wandering too much while grieving, and according to the old man, he'd started to gain a bit of a reputation on the street as a reliable up-and-coming merc, not as the Shino but as Naruto. The old man had warned him to not be too surprised if other Fixers tried to contact him with job offers sometime. He just warned him to be wary as corpos were always wanting to sink their fangs into new up-and-comers. XXX. Good morning Night City. Naruto's eyes snapped open as the radio next to his bed popped on at its scheduled time. This is your man Stan bringing you the news, and he blindly swatted at the damn thing from underneath his covers, knocking several items off the table next to the bed onto the floor along with the radio, which finally turned off after hitting the ground. He groaned and rolled over onto his back, yawning as he laid there for a few minutes before opening his eyes and panicking for a half second as he didn't recognize his location. Oh yeah, he chuckled to himself. He'd just gotten himself a new apartment in one of the megabuildings and last night was the first time he'd stayed here. It wasn't anything too amazing, just a simple room that kinda reminded him of the no-tell motel except, well, mostly cleaner, and it was also on the second floor. Tossing back the blanket, he rolled out of bed and picked up the radio, placing it back on the nightstand before looking around. The place was empty to say the least. The round couch with the holoscreen above it, a desk with a terminal and an office chair being the only furniture that came with the place. The walls and floors had been a mess when he first saw the place, but after an hour or so with a half-dozen clones, it looked much nicer than before. Beep. He mused while seeing the call. It was the Padre. Answering it, he waited for the video call to connect, and soon, the old man popped into view. Hey, good morning, Padre, what's up? Ah, Naruto, good morning to you as well, the man greeted. I'm glad to see that you're up and about. Forgive the sudden call, but I'm in need of a man of your skill. What's wrong? Naruto rubbed the sleep from his eyes and turned serious. A young couple has contacted me pleading for safe passage out of the city. They wish to leave the city behind to escape her father, but the man has sent wolves to their door. Normally I would not bother you with such a thing, but the boy is a distant nephew and I fear that the wolves have been told to end them both. The father wants to kill his daughter too, Naruto exclaimed, getting a nod from the man. The father does not approve of their love and has tried everything short of flatlining the boy. Now it would appear that he's decided to have them both zeroed. The boy is unable to pay those he's already sunk all of his funds into leaving the city. Send me the information, I'll do it, Naruto interrupted, already turning to put on his clothes. Something about the two being willing to run off and escape this city together struck a chord with him, and despite not knowing them, he was already rooting for the pair. The Padre looked grateful and nodded. Thank you, sending you the deets now. I will ensure that you are repaid for this, Naruto. Contact me when they arrive at their destination. Will do. Moments after the old man ended the call, Naruto received the deets on the sudden gig. The first thing to pop up was a picture of a happy young couple. The young man had several tattoos and looked like a Gangun compared to the young woman next to him, dressed like she belonged in some megacorp office. But the way they held each other in the pic showed that they cared about each other despite the different backgrounds. Sydney Garcia and Amelia Bennett. Sid is a Haywood Street kid born and raised. Amelia is from a well-off corpo family. Her father has threatened them and from Sid's call, has attempted to kill them both. They have arranged to be escorted by a nomads waiting just outside the city but are being hounded by the father's wolves. He has found a safe haven with a friend. Reading over the details, Naruto noted the location in the glen where they were supposed to be hiding. It wasn't too far from where the Padre would hang out by the basketball courts. But there was still a long way between the glen and the small hotel just outside of the Badlands. Naruto looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. He'd managed to find some new orange pants to replace his old ones and couldn't be happier to be back in his favorite colors. They kinda reminded him of his old black and orange outfit from Konoha, just more punk. Cyberpunk maybe. Alright, let's go, he grinned to himself, psyching himself up as he walked out the bathroom. Walking towards the door, he passed by his desk and stopped just long enough to straighten the framed picture of him and Cammy sitting there. Wish me luck, babe. XXX. Groaning, David looked around the apartment and huffed when he saw that his mother wasn't there. Working a double huff, he kicked his dirty pants into the pile with the others and grumbled to himself while sliding on his Arasaka Academy coat. He hated that place, hated it more than he'd ever hated anything in his life. The stuck-up corpo gonks he had class with sneered at him for being poor. The teachers half-ass ignored him. Hell, he was sure even the automated testing bee they used sometimes skipped over him. But mom worked so hard to get him there. He'd rather be out working to bring in some eddies to help out, but no, she wanted him to go to this Gonkas Academy with all these assholes for a chance at working in Arasaka. The thought made him sick. Better get going before I miss the NCART, he thought. The only upside was that he had a handful of BDs to sell from the dock. Now that he was going to school at Arasaka, he had a decent pool of freaks that loved the kinda shit Doc sent him, and one thing about corpo kids was that they didn't haggle price. He could charge them double and they'd happily take it. Opening up the door, he stuffed his hands into his pockets and locked up behind him. As always, the place was a mess with dozens of gonks hanging around, trash piled up in the corner and the local gangoons being assholes. Even now they were being annoying by blasting music from a most likely stolen radio, but honestly, it was a huge improvement from how they used to be. For some reason they started acting a lot different a few months back, and rumor was that it was due to some killings that went down in Mega Building 10. Well, what you know, check it out boys, called a voice that made him grimace, if it isn't Davy the Sokka student. Turning, he saw one of the local gangoons of 6th Street that claimed the area. Since he started going to Arasaka Academy, these gonks have been busting his balls any chance they could. Hey guys, he greeted unenthusiastically while turning to face them. Look, you choons need something. I'm gonna miss the NCART and be late to school. It was two guys and a chick, each only a few years older than him and all of them pretty low in the gang. From what he knew, they were pretty much run-of-the-mill thugs. Only one of them seemed to really enjoy fucking with him though, a gonk named Avery, the other guy Ham, and the girl Darcy just seemed to roll with it. Nothing much choom. Avery smirked at him, just looking to score another one of those BDs you had. Last one netted me a few good eddies, so how about another hookup? David frowned. A hookup? You mean you clept it from me? The man crossed his arms. Stole? He asked, half amused while the other two rolled their eyes behind him. Consider it payment for letting you go to your fancy corpo class in one piece. He walked closer with a cruel grin. How about you pay the fine and I'll act like you didn't call me a klepto? He knew that he couldn't fight the older thug, even if he couldn't manage to beat him. The other two would probably jump in on principle, and besides, fighting members of 6th Street would cause trouble with Mom. All he could really do was grit his teeth and... Oi, someone called out behind him, how about you leave the kid alone? Avery looked over David's shoulder, face turning red. How about you mind your own business, gonk? Turning, David saw a man he'd never seen in the building before and had one thought. Orange. The hell, he couldn't help but think at the sight of all the orange the guy wore, he's some kinda convict. 3 gangoons teaming up to rob a kid trying to go to school, the man mused as he walked closer, hands in the pockets of his orange vest. I don't have high opinions of 6th Street in the first place, but seeing you pick on kids just really takes it to a new low. Hey Avery, the girl called out behind him, only to be ignored. She and the other guy shared a nervous glance. Now that he was closer, David was certain he'd never seen the man before. Short blonde hair, whisker-like scars on each cheek, a cyber arm, and oh lord all the orange. You fucked in the head? Avery asked, shoving David out of the way as he passed by. You might be packing that iron on your side, but you're fucking with 6th Street, ya gonk. He spat out while nodding his head towards the holstered revolver on the guy's thigh. Keep taking shit and we'll shove that pistol up your gonk ass. He looked amused. That's so. Avery nodded. Who do you mean when you say, we? The blonde man nodded behind them. Cause your chooms over there don't look too thrilled with the idea. Both David and Avery looked over to the other gangoons who looked like they wanted to be anywhere else other than there. Avery felt an arm drape over his shoulder and glanced over to see the man staring at him with a little smile. How he moved that fast and silent he didn't know, but when he went to snatch away, he felt the man grip his shoulder painfully. How about you apologize to the kid for being a bastard and pay him back for what you stole? Yeah, I heard you earlier. You do that and we'll act like this didn't happen. Fuck you, ya gonk, he snapped back. Avery, for fuck's sake. The girl yelped, now looking pale. Shut the fuck up and do what he says. The teen next to her nodded quickly, looking sick. Looking at his friends in confusion, the teen looked at the smiling blonde and growled, only to grimace when the hand on his shoulder clenched tighter. Fine fuck. He grumbled and his eyes lit up. David was shocked to see a notification requesting permission to deposit 467 eddies to him and quickly accepted it. That's all I got left from it. When the blonde released him, he snatched away and moved to his chooms, feeling a lot more brave with them at his back now. You're fucked, you hear me? You don't fuck with 6th Street and get away with it. Yeah, the blonde sighed dismissively, making Avery growl. When you're crying to your boss, tell him Naruto says hi and that he's expecting a call, okay? Ham and Darcy rushed forward as Avery seemed to move towards the blonde. Ham wrapped his arms around the guy and trapped him in a bear hug while Darcy slapped a hand over his mouth with an audible smack. There's no need for that, sir, she laughed nervously. This gonks. She looked like her mind was racing. He's all gonked in the brain, choom. The other guy chuckled. His mom was out of her mind on glitter. He's not all that smart. David couldn't believe his eyes and ears. These 3 had been the biggest pains in his ass for the last month since he started going to Arasaka, and now they were acting like this. Who the hell was this orange-wearing guy? Naruto, right? Watching the 2 run away, one basically carrying the third as he did, David could only stare in shock. Who are you? He asked. He just looked at him and gave the teen an easygoing grin. Call me Naruto, your new next-door neighbor. Well, from down the hall anyway. He rubbed the back of his neck. You all good though? Yeah, nothing they hadn't pulled before. Oh, and I'm David, he grumbled, stuffing his hands back in his pants pockets. But why'd they act like that? How do they know you? That's kind of a rough story, Naruto told him with a grimace, thinking of all that he'd done in his rampage and how many families were missing loved ones. They acted like a bunch of thugs most of the time, but they had families that cared about them. He saw that personally when he took Rico's niece hostage. But anyway, nice meeting you, David, but I gotta run. Grimacing, the teen checked the time. Same here, choom, best delta myself or I'll be late to class. Pretty good to meet you. With a small wave, David went towards the stairs, which was completely blocked by a mountain of trash, and climbed over, dropping down onto another trash pile below to break his fall. Shocked at first, Naruto looked over the edge to see that the teen wasn't fazed at all with the drop and had continued jogging as if nothing had happened. Must do that pretty often, he thought to himself while looking at the pile. Someone should really do something about the trash pile up around the area. Seeing several random run-of-the-mill street gangoons near several spontaneous craving satisfaction machines, he shook his head at the sight of one trying to hack into it either to try and steal the eddies or food. Yeah, someone really should do something about the trash. XXX. Goddamn bitch. Slamming his fist into the door panel next to him, Faraday grit his teeth and seethed. He'd waited and held it in for as long as he could after leaving the meeting with his handler, managing to make it 2 blocks away before unleashing his anger. His driver didn't react and kept his eyes on the road. How the hell am I supposed to be Santo Domingo's premier fixer with that stupid fucking stuck-up whore on my case? He hit the door one last time and took a deep breath to calm himself, then smoothed his burgundy neokitsch suit, brushing himself off a couple of times afterward. While he was Militech's go-to fixer for most of their high-priority jobs, he always had the time between contracts to do some business of his own. Doing so ensured he had a steady stream of contacts to use and ensured his place as Santos' #1 fixer. But lately, his old contact with Militech was replaced by one Meredith Stout. At first he was smug. After all, Militech had finally seen fit to assign a senior executive as his point of contact, someone who could actually make things happen without the usual, "I'll send your request up the chain," posturing. That was, until he met the bitch, Meredith fucking Stout. She wanted him to get her information on some masked asshole, didn't care if he had other gigs that required handling, didn't care if it hurt his standing. She actually cost him quite a bit, and that upstart punk, El Capitan, started taking some of his biz, and for what? Because she wanted to know about the 6th Street Chino. Yeah, he knew what they called that masked gangoon. He'd even looked into trying to recruit the merc himself, but with all the mess surrounding that gang and his old handler informing him not to meddle with 6th Street, he'd been unable to make a move. The thought of how he used the Corpo's need for information to milk the Corpo for tens thousands of eddies at a time to buy information from sources or make connections still made him smirk. But now the bitch wanted more. She wanted anything and everything, especially the Shino's name and where to find him. He was called the fucking Shino, for crying out loud, short for shinobi, you know, the stealthy assassins of the past. At least he had a decent lead on it though. Take me to. He grimaced at the name, Pig Boy's delight, just saying it felt disgusting. The Shino was connected to 6th Street, and if anyone had the deets on him it would be the general of the gang, Rick Morton. He'd handled a few gigs for the man in the past and was certain he'd be able to get what he needed from the man one way or another. XXX. Following behind his driver bodyguard as they walked into the pub, Faraday took extra care not to touch anything as they entered, ignoring the few lowly gangoons they passed along the way. "Morton," he greeted, keeping an even tone despite his displeasure at having to be in such a place. "Good to see you're still in one piece. I heard you had a bit of nasty business involving some of your lower ranks." The pub was as dirty and disgusting as ever, the smell of stale beer, smoke, and all manner of repulsive substances filling the air. If it got silent for long enough he could even hear the sounds of someone vomiting in another room. Luckily for him, the few gonks loitering around the room seemed to be either sleeping off a drunken night of debauchery or too hungover to be an issue. The few that weren't seemed to be Morton's closest guards, who watched him with untrusting optics. "Faraday," the beastly man greeted from his place at the bar, "gotta say it's a surprise to see you around here. Wanna brosif?" He held up his beer, which made the fixer fight back a sneer. "Too early for me." Morton shrugged. "Your loss." Turning up the bottle he finished it off in one go and disgusted the man by burping afterwards and tossing the bottle towards the trash, where it broke inside the can. "What brings you here?" "Don't remember calling you or anything." He looked the fixer up and down for a moment and smirked. "Doubt you're here just cause you're glad I'm still kicking." Faraday wanted to wipe the gangoon's smug look off his face, preferably with something in a high caliber after the meeting he had earlier. But he had to rein it in for now. He still needed these low-brow goons. "I need information on someone you know, the Shino." Everyone in the bar that could hear him froze, and suddenly, the four-eyed fixer of Santo found himself the center of attention by every conscious gonk in the room. "You're fucking with me, right?" Morton deadpanned as if he'd just told a shit joke. "Oh, I'm quite serious and can make it worth the effort. I just need whatever you have on him." That made the man snort, which got a twitch from Faraday, Ain't worth shit if the fucker flatlines my ass. He told him while rolling his eyes, unless you're putting enough on the table to get the lot of us out of the city, then there's no fucking way that I'm gonna risk my boys by pissing off that gonk. Morden, surely we can work something out. He stepped past his driver and approached the gang boss. I merely want to contact him about some work. A lie, but this fool wouldn't know any difference. All I need is a name or a number. Or even someone who can provide it. Tough shit, the man snapped back. Like I said, I ain't risking my boys over that psycho, and before you ask, no. Ain't no one else in 6th Street left that knows shit about him. They stared each other down for a few seconds, the tension in the room getting thicker by the moment. Morden could see the fixer's hustle also tensing up for the worst while his own guards did the same. It wouldn't be good for the pair considering his boys were packing some heavy lead slingers these days. Looking at the man, his other optic analyzed the general's guard across the bar, tagging the VST-37 power shotgun pointed in his direction from shadows underneath the table. Fine, I see that we're getting nowhere with this, he snapped, looking down his nose at the man. Since this visit was a waste of my time, I'll see myself out. The general nodded. Probably for the best shoom. He waved off the man with the shotgun and nodded to another on the opposite side of the room, armed with a SMG. Good luck with finding that psycho, you'll need it if you piss him off. Faraday scoffed as he left the pub and marched to his car, a Chevrolet Thrax 388 Jefferson, and climbed in while his driver followed suit. You in? I'm in, bossman, his netrunner reported, annoyingly chipper. I got access to their local net, got eyes and ears on the old gonk. Looks like he's spooked. He's making a call. Patching in now. Rico, it's Rick. He could hear the voice of the general over the hollow. What's up, Chumba? He didn't recognize the voice, but he had a name. Any decent netrunner could dig up who this Rico was. I know you left the gang and shit, but look, wanna give you a heads up. Remember Faraday? Yeah, Gonk's a great asshole. What about him? Faraday twitched, but as annoyed as he was, he'd been called much worse to his face. He just left. Wants the deets on the kid. Something about a gig or some shit. You tell him. Fuck no, last thing I need is the kid coming after me. But listen, I get the feeling that Faraday's not gonna give up. You're the only other person that knows shit about him, so watch your back, choom. So the rumors that the Chino and 6th Street were on poor terms were true. Their reaction earlier had proven it, but this was just the finishing blow. Fucking hell, this Rico sounded both worried and annoyed. I'm still getting bit in the ass cause of this. Thanks for the heads up, choom. Look, I'll get up with you later, got a Delta. As the line went dead, his runner disconnected them from it. That's all from there. Want me to keep an eye on him? No, run a search on this Rico. If he's not with 6th Street anymore, then maybe he'll be willing to talk. If given the right incentive. He smirked to himself and sneered at the 6th Street gangoons they passed on the way away from Pigboys. Contact me when you have something for me, then I'll consider the gig closed, Miss Sasha. You got it. XXX. Another day in paradise, Naruto grumbled sarcastically as he took in the sights atop the moving end cart as it took him across the river from Arroyo into Haywood. Anyone looking would see him sitting on his ass above the front of the car, legs crossed with his cheek resting on his left fist. His mood had taken a small slump early when he saw a young woman hack into the terminal for a free ride, much like Cammy had shown him all those days ago. Had he not already been looking at that terminal in particular, he'd have never seen the hack at all. The holographic display above barely flickered, and the girl was pretty smooth to say the least, since he'd never seen her jack in or out of the terminal itself. The girl was a bit interesting too. He hadn't seen many white-haired girls running around Night City, and she seemed to be a little younger than him. Oh well, he thought with a small shrug. He had bigger fish to fry at the moment. Standing up, he stretched a bit as the NCART pulled into the station and dozens of commuters came piling out. Just before jumping down, he spotted two things that caught his eye. The first was David, quickly making his way down to the street. The second was the white-haired girl, catching something that flew out of a man's head. After a second, he realized it was a shard and that she was stealing people's shards. What a bitch, he thought, stealing from some random guy just trying to get to work. But then again, knowing this city, he was probably some kinda asshole in a suit that touched kids. Deciding not to jump into the crowd, he turned and stepped off the other side of the NCART and fell a dozen feet down to the street level, shocking some poor fucker by landing just a few feet away with a small apologetic grin. Sorry dude. Just as soon as the words came out of his mouth, the man hunched over and threw up all over the ground in front of him, making the blonde scramble to move back as not to get any on his shoes. Really, the sight almost made him want to puke himself, but at the same time he couldn't help but think that it really captured that Night City spirit. Just, Naruto shook his hand and waved the man off before turning to leave. Never mind. He only had a little ways left to go to reach the place where Sydney and Amelia were hiding and didn't really have more time to waste. The building turned out to be a pretty old 3-story brick building, with the floor at street level being a boarded-up storefront with years' worth of graffiti sprayed on the front. The freshest being a massive mural of a praying saint with a skull for a face that someone put a lot of time and effort into with all the detail it showed. It took him a bit to find the entrance since the obvious front door was boarded over and blocked off by overflowing dumpsters. He was honestly about to just run up the side and find the right window when he found the open emergency side entrance propped open with a cinder block. "Hello." Naruto knocked on the door upon finding the right one on the second floor. "Hey, anyone here?" Pressing his ear against the metal door, he listened for movement and huffed. Maybe they'd already left. He'd have to give the old man a call to find out where. Shatter. The sound of something breaking reached his ears, followed by a woman's scream, then a gunshot. Reacting instantly, Naruto tried to rush in, but the door didn't budge, but seeing as it was just a simple metal door, he reared back and kicked it with all he could muster, breaking the frame and sending the door swinging violently into the wall. "Get the hell away from her, you puta," he heard as he rushed in, seeing a young Valentino wrestling with a suited man trying to fight over the suit's pistol while a young woman crawled away. "Michaela baby, get out of here," he yelled, swinging his fist at the man who grunted at the attack. "Caesar," the woman screamed, eyes going wide at the sight of the blonde barreling into their apartment. "Oh God, it's another one." Hearing his girl scream, Caesar turned instinctively, only for the gun to fire again, just barely hitting him in the shoulder. The apartment itself barely had anything in it aside from a couple of old pieces of furniture, and the small coffee table next to the couch was soon destroyed as the man in the suit used Caesar's distraction to grapple the man and hip-toss the younger man into it. "You should have kept out of it, gonk," he sneered at the younger man who groaned, raising his pistol to shoot him. "Hey dumbass," Naruto called out, rushing the man. He avoided the crying girl and threw a punch at the man who was now trying to whirl around to face him. His fist crashed into the guy's face, causing the gun to fire again, which blasted a hole in the wall, nearly hitting a small cross hanging there. "Hey, you guys okay?" he asked, looking between the two. The guy groaned in the wreckage of their table and the girl looked at him with wide fearful eyes. "Easy, I ain't with these guys, the padre sent me." That got the woman to calm down a bit. She eased to her feet and rushed over to the man, but still gave the blonde a wide berth. "Caesar." She kneeled down next to the groaning man and fussed over him while Naruto looked at the pan he'd knocked out. "Definitely not from around here," he thought with a hum while kneeling next to him, taking the man's gun and sticking it into his vest pocket. It was a bit nicer than most of what he'd seen around here, mostly made of what seemed to be plastic with Arasaka branded along the slide. The man himself was dressed in a dark suit with red trim, rocking a topknot and sporting a set of wraparound glasses with a single red lens that seemed to glow. Not to sound like an ungrateful pendejo, but who the hell are you? Turning, Naruto saw the girl helping the man up and gave them both a once-over. The guy was obviously a member of the Valentinos from all the gold he wore, several necklaces, his black and gold cyberware, even his black belt had a gold chain stitched into it. He was clutching his shoulder where a shallow bullet wound bleed down his arm and leaning on the girl as she helped him stand. The girl wore very short gold pajama bottoms and a black tank top with her hair in a messy bun. He didn't know if she was a member or not. Unlike the guy, she didn't have any visible tattoos or chrome. "I'm Naruto. The padre sent me to help Sydney and Amelia. Where are they?" Standing up, he faced the pair, who looked at each other. The padre's quick as usual. He chuckled, then winching at his shoulder. "Sid and his girl ran out the back just a sec ago." The man nodded his head towards a set of open doors where he could see an open window leading to a fire escape in the alley. "These gonks busted in trying to 0M. Tried holding M off some, but two got past me. They're chipped with speedwear or some shit." Naruto was already on the move by the time he saw the window and sped up when he heard they had speedwear. "Hey," he could hear the man call out from behind him. "Save my chum and his output all right." The blonde didn't hear the rest of it as he'd already jumped out onto the fire escape, which shook and groaned under his weight as he looked around and listened for any clues. That's when he saw it. On the railing in front of him was a smear of red. Fresh blood leading to the steps going up to the roof. Running up the wall and onto the roof, Naruto jumped on top of one of the rumbling AC units atop the building to get a better look around, using the direction of the blood to narrow his search. "Oh, come the fuck on." His shoulders sagged as he saw the rooftops. A small tent city stretched out over multiple rooftops, tents made of tarps, shacks made of rusted metal and scrap. It was a homeless civilization up here. But the people were gone. Grills were steadily burning whatever was cooking. A small hollow nearby glitched as it tried to play the news but looked like it had been knocked over. He could even see half-hung laundry that had been dropped on the ground, but no people were out even though he could sense them. The opening to one of the nearby tents moved, but the material crinkled as it moved, catching his attention as a man cautiously opened the front of his tent and leaned out. He scooched closer and stabbed the suspect meat patty on the nearby grill with a knife and slowly started sliding back inside when their eyes met. Ah, he was an older man, missing an eye while the other was an older model optic. Naruto held out his hand in what he hoped wouldn't scare the man. Did a couple run through here being chased by a couple guys? The man looked really nervous and slowly nodded. Why yeah, gonks started shooting and we hid. He slowly pointed over his shoulder with a thumb. They ran that way. Thanks, look, just stay down for a little while longer. At least till I handle them, okay? Not waiting for a response, Naruto leapt over the tent and tried clearing as much ground as he could without damaging anyone's makeshift home. Several clones popped into existence, and had he not been in a hurry, he would have disguised them, but nonetheless, they scattered to search the maze of ducts, hovels, trash piles, and rooftop machinery. Finding what used to be a tent, Naruto stopped and landed next to the body laid in a bloody pool in the confines of that blue plastic and could only shake his head. Maybe if he'd been a little faster this guy would still be alive. Sorry Chum. He patted the dead man's shoulder and stood up. He still had a job to do. XXX. After getting that call from the general. No, he wasn't his general anymore. After hearing from his old Chum, Rico just sat in his small apartment and smoked. The last few months weren't all that kind, to be honest, and the fallout from that gonk gunner had cost a lot. First off, his wife left him, the stress over the war, she said, but he knew it was because of him leaving the gang. Turns out she liked being the wife of a high-ranking gangoon and the eddies he raked in, but now that it was gone so was she. Just up and delted the fuck right out of the house and drained the account of nearly 36K. Joke's on her though, he used to make that on a slow week, and his daddy might have been an abusive fuck, but he taught him to always have a backup plan. She might have taken a few thousand eddies, but if he wanted, he was certain he could liquidate all of his stuff and leave this city behind like a goddamn king. Trade in his favors, call in any debts, sell his secrets, then dig up his stash, and he'd have nearly $1 million or so on the low end. He wasn't one of Morden's top lieutenants for nothing after all. Ortiz was pretty pissy at him for leaving despite knowing ahead of time, probably hoped that he would change his mind, but honestly, as much as the gang gave, it took just as much, and over the last few weeks he'd been able to reconnect with his sister and niece. His little sister still blamed him for Diego, and honestly he blamed himself as well, but at least she was talking to him again. Shame that the same couldn't be said about Ortiz. She hadn't returned any of his calls or messages, and well, that hurt too. After sending her a message to let her know about Faraday, just in case they somehow came to her knowing she was his old Chum, all he really felt like doing was enjoying his smoke and contemplating his predicament. These gonks would find him sooner or later. Faraday was a conniving gonk fuck like that, so he had to come to a decision soon. Either tell them what they want to know and risk the kid reappearing to zero him for selling him out, or tell them to stick their offer up their ass and most likely not make it out alive. A real lose-lose situation either way. So here he was, kicked back on the couch with his feet on the coffee table. The familiar weight of his palika on his lap and several of Ortiz's special-made gash anti-personal grenades next to him, her own personal little mark on them being a small sticker on it with a middle finger with the word, "Get wrecked," in the middle. If he had to die today he wouldn't fucking do it alone, that was for sure. Knock knock knock. Not even 2 hours after Morden called. Huh, the gonks were good. Checking his smartlink and pocketing some gashnades, he stuck the smoke between his lips and cracked his neck. Maybe they'll surprise him and fuck off when he tells them to pound sand. The thought made him chuckle. That wasn't fucking likely. Opening his door, he narrowed his eyes at the gonks in front of him. The fuck do you want? XXX. Gasping and fighting to catch their breath, a young couple hurried around the side of a massive rumbling air conditioning unit and pressed themselves against it. Don't worry, Aim, I promise I'll get us out of here, the young man said, looking at the girl who was wheezing much harder than he was and clutching his hand. So beautiful, the young man couldn't help but think. She was dressed in a nice little gray blazer with a white shirt and a matching knee-length skirt and a shawl over her head, out of place for Haywood, sure, but they hadn't exactly had a chance to get her some different threads. They were really a mix-matched pair. She looked like she should be running some corpo boardroom or enjoying a fancy-ass meal up in one of those glass towers, while here he was, cheap threadbare tank top, ratty-ass polymer kicks, and sweatpants. "Sid, I'm so sorry," she gasped, looking at him with tears running down her now red face, making his heart ache. "My asshole, Dad. Catch your breath, babe," he shushed her, leaning over to peek around the unit when she gasped. "Sid, you're hurt." Turning, he spotted a fresh red smear on the metal where he'd been leaning while she covered her mouth with a horrified gasp. "Sid, you've been shot." His heart was already pounding, but looking over his shoulder then trying to twist caused a fresh wave of pain in his right side where his tank top was now sticking to him, slowly turning red. How had he not felt it before now? "It's fine," he tried to assure her, pressing his hand against it much to his discomfort. "First I gotta get you somewhere safe." "What about your friend, the one you called for help?" Sid nodded slowly. He said someone was on the way. "I'll need to." He was cut off as he spotted one of the assassins her father sent after them rounded a corner. "Shit, duck," he whispered, ducking down and quickly dragging her with him. There were a few things between them and him, so hopefully the gonk didn't spot them just yet. Seeing her about to ask, he placed a finger to his lips and shushed her, motioning behind her for her to move. "Stay low and try not to make a sound, okay?" Amelia nodded and fought down her fear, cursing her father repeatedly in her mind. Why couldn't he just let her go and be happy? The overly controlling son of a bitch had to have the final say in everything, and she had to do the best and have the best as far as he was concerned, for the family name, he always said. Now that she wouldn't listen to his demands and wanted to run away with her boyfriend, the insane asshole wanted to kill them both. God, why couldn't he just drop dead? Her internal raging ended when she accidentally bumped into something, causing a stack of metal scaffolding bars leaning against a vent to slowly scrape the wall and fall with an ear-piercing clatter and clang that seemed to go on for what seemed like hours while she gasped in horror. "Over there," a man yelled just before a gunshot rang out. "Fuck," her boyfriend yelled, scrambling to his feet and racing forward, scooping her up to her feet as he did. "Aim, run." She did, nearly falling several times as he pushed her ahead of him, bullets flying overhead. "Just run," he continued. "Don't stop, I'll be right behind you." Her legs felt like lead, her heart pounded against her chest and in her ears, lungs burning as she gasped. "Turn here," he urged her, grabbing her by the elbow as she nearly passed the turn he indicated. "I recognize this place, there's a roof access door over here." "Ah." He yelped and fell to the ground, nearly bringing her with him as he fell. She stopped and tried to help him up. "Sid, you have to get up." He tried to do so but couldn't put any weight on his leg, revealing the bloody hole in the back of his thigh that bled profusely. "Oh God, baby." The girl had fresh tears running down her face now and continued to try and pull him up. "Aim, you have to run," he grunted, teeth clenched. "Baby, please, you have to go. Maybe your dad will call him off after they." She latched onto him and pressed her lips to his, silencing him. "Fuck him," she sobbed, holding onto him tightly. "I'd rather die here with you than give him the satisfaction." They held onto each other and kissed for what seemed like eternity, but was really only a few seconds before she broke it, holding a hand against his cheek. "I love you, Sid." "I love you to Aim." They stared at each other for a bit, lost in each other's eyes. "I'm sorry I couldn't get you out of here." She opened her mouth to say something, but seeing one of the gonks after them turn the corner behind her, he wrapped his arms around her and pulled her to the ground just as several shots were fired at her. XXX. Hearing the shots, Naruto shot forward in a burst of speed and caught sight of a man and woman running with a suited assassin closing in behind them 3 buildings away. From the looks of the killer, he had just activated his speedwear and was quickly moving over the rooftop in a blur of movement while raising his pistol. Jumping over the gap between the first, he put more strength into the next jump and sailed through the air in an orange blur to clear the next one completely and land on the next, which looked like it was supposed to be renovated with a bunch of construction supplies piled around. Charging forward, a Rasengan quickly forming in his hand, Naruto grimaced as the man fired just moments before he reached him. "Hey asshole." Despite using his speedwear to turn his head, the assassin wasn't fast enough to dodge, only getting to see a glowing blue object just as it struck him in the side. To him, he got to feel his feet lift off the ground as the object tore through the flesh and chrome of his arm, then into the side of his chest. The pain as he felt his chest collapsing inward and his organs rip and rupture was ungodly, but soon ended as the speedwear in his back took damage, forcing itself to shut down. To the assassin, as soon as his chrome died, his world went black. "That's one," he muttered, looking away from what remained of the assassin, a massive spatter of blood covering the area past the body which twitched and spasmed on the ground at his feet. "Where?" His train of thought was broken as several more gunshots rang out and he turned to see the girl collapse on top of the young man, and for a moment the girl looked like Cammy falling to the ground, which made his blood boil. No. Fearing the worst, he quickly palmed several shuriken and slung them at the assassin as the man lowered his aim towards them again. You bastard. Out of the 6 he threw, 2 just barely missed while the others struck true. 1 hit his fingers holding the pistol, severing a few of them with the force he used. The 3 pelted his torso, 1 even sinking dangerously close to his neck, which sent the man to his knees with a scream, blood pouring from his severed digits while the gun clattered to the ground. He didn't scream for long as Naruto suddenly appeared in front of him in a flash and slammed a fist into his face, breaking his jaw in a spray of teeth, spit, and blood. A familiar rage surged through his body as he punched the man again and again until he pulled back, once again leaving a twitching body laying flat on the ground, gasping for breath through broken teeth but still breathing. Aim, baby, are you okay? The voice brought him out of it and he cursed, remembering the couple. Hey, you okay? He called out, turning to the pair laying on the ground. Rushing over, the girl hugged onto the guy even tighter, eyes going wide as he approached. Whoa, easy. He stopped short and held out his hands. Easy, the old man, the padre sent me. The name's Naruto. Sid looked up at him. Naruto. Seeing him nod, he let out a sigh of relief and let his head fall back onto the rooftop with a laugh. Holy fuck, you got great timing, Shum. He rubbed Amelia's side as he did, tears running down his cheeks. Everything's gonna be okay, baby, I told you, see. Digging into his pouch, where he started carrying a spare bounce back just in case, Naruto kneeled down next to the couple and jabbed the guy in his leg, which made him hiss. You hurt anywhere else? He asked, looking around for anything to tie around the young man's thigh. Seeing him looking, the girl took off the shawl around her head and handed it to him. Leg's the worst, I think. Aw fuck. He yelped as Naruto tied the fabric tight to stop the bleeding. Amelia grimaced at his pain and placed a comforting hand on his chest. Sighed too, but I didn't really get a chance to look. Lifting the thin tank top, Naruto saw that the wound on his side was a graze but had torn a decent gash through his flesh. You'll need to see a doc for it, but you'll live. Just keep pressure on it for now until we can wrap it with something clean. Helping them up, he let them take a moment to breathe before asking, were these 3 the only ones after you? I think, she answered him, ducking under Sid's arm to help support his weight, but I wouldn't put it past that gonk to send more. Naruto nodded and pulled the pistol he'd had in his vest out. Here, take it, he ordered, handing over the gun to the man followed by the spare mags, just in case. He took it and nodded, slipping the mags in his pocket while keeping the pistol handy. Come on, let's get you 2 out of here. Hell yeah, Chum, Sid agreed with aim nodding, but can we stop by to thank Kasar? I really wanna apologize for getting him mixed in this shit. Yeah, Naruto nodded, pretty sure we got time. XXX. Grunting as he was thrown off his feet, Rico coughed a few times and realized that the gonk had blasted him back into his living room a few yards back from the door. The pressure in his chest told him something was fucked long before his biomonitor alerted him to the issue, but at least it told him that 7 ribs were broken. The gonk that hit him must be overcompensating for something, jacked like an animal gangoon and chipping gorilla arms. Fucking cheap shot. I figured you try and make things difficult. He heard from his doorway, the voice making him grit his teeth. Nice of you to join the party, Faraday, 'bout time you stepped into the field. He rolled over and went to stand, but a gunshot ended his plans as a bullet shattered his knee, dropping him to the ground with a scream he tried to bite back. Fucking son of a Bakali Joytoy. He spat out. Really, Enrico? The 4-eyed fixer sighed, enjoying the feeling of having the man at his mercy while his driver aimed a rifle at the man. All I wanted was to have a little conversation and you had to go flying off the rails. He looked towards his hustle laying dead in the hallway from a point-blank shotgun blast. The name's Rico Gonk, he snapped, clutching his bleeding knee. Only your whore mother gets to call me that when she's. Another shot hit him in the arm. Ah, you sensitive 4-eyed pussy. He was really channeling Ortiz today for some reason. Speaking of which, he was trying to send her a message only for it to fail. Wouldn't bother with that, the man gloated, walking past the doorway and into his apartment. Runners hacked your soft already, you're all alone, Rico. Faraday smirked down at the bleeding man and kicked his short smart gun away. Now, I came here for information and I'm not leaving here without it. Red's not your color, Chum, Rico spat, grinning at the man. How's that for information? Faraday only rolled his eyes. You 6th Street gangoons all think you're so tough. He stepped around Rico and brushed off the coffee table just a couple feet away to sit down. But I know what makes you tick, Rico. I know your wife left you. stole your eddies and you had to start living in this dump. He motioned around at the nearly empty room they were in. I could offer to bring her back and the money but you'll only say, "Eat shit and drop dead," Rico hissed, both at the man and the pain in his arm. Fuck, he wished that he hadn't gotten rid of most of his combat chrome. A pain editor would be pretty preem at the moment. The other man shrugged. Close enough, but as I said, I could make you dozens of offers and you're too stubborn to take them. He crossed his arms. So I'll make a different offer. Instead of giving you something you want, I'll let you keep something. Your family, your sister and that lovely little niece of yours. You bastard, he growled, only for Faraday to shrug it off. Call me what you want, but either way you're going to tell me what I want to know or little Sarah's going to find herself in a rather sticky situation. He smirked at the man as he growled, I've already made the arrangement with NCPD for detectives to find all manner of illicit goods among her stuff. Wouldn't be too hard to believe, after all her uncle's a known member of 6th Street and let's not forget what happened with poor Diego. You don't get to say his fucking name, he roared. Yes, you're all riled up, he dismissed the man's roar as if they'd been talking about the weather. Now, I want you to think hard, Rico. You can either tell me what I want to know or your niece is going to be seeing some serious jail time. She might get out in say, 20 or so years. Silence. Rico looked away, unable to look at the smug fucker, Naruto Uzumaki. That's his fucking name, the Shino. That's why you're fucking here, right? Where is he? He scoffed and laid flat on the floor. Fuck if I know, with how shit went down between us we don't exactly write each other. Last I heard from him, he threatened us, so believe me, I've gone out of my way to avoid pissing him off. Only reason I'm telling you is because I hope you find him. He grinned at the look of confusion Faraday gave him at that. Yeah, that's right. I hope you do manage to track him down, cause he's gonna skullfuck your ass for bothering him. The man chuckled some more, and you got plenty of holes for him to choose from, you freak. Sneering at the downed man, Faraday stood up and pulled out his Militech Omaha pistol. Well, at least you can die with a smile on your face. He aimed at Rico's head. I was planning on making it quick, but he aimed lower and shot him a few times in his stomach, then another in his other leg and arm. People like you make me disgust me. Lay there and suffer. Rico's eyes were wide, but he'd been blinded from the pain. And don't worry about the girl. I got better things to go than ruin some little whore's future. I'm sure she'll do it herself. As the fixer walked away, followed by his remaining hustle, Rico could only lay there as the life drained from his body. He kept trying to send a message to someone, anyone, for help. Despite his earlier bravado, he didn't want to die, not like this. But every attempt he made ended with the same error messages flashing over his optics, followed by alerts from his biomonitor. Oh god, he could hear Morden now. You gonk, all you had to do was ask and I'd come running. Why face that sumbitch alone like some goddamn fool? He'd rant. Error. Network not found. Message could not be sent. Warning. Blood pressure dropping. Recommend immediate emergency medical aid. His sister would curse him for leaving them like this. Sarah would be inconsolable for days. As much as the thought made him ache, he wasn't too worried for them. Sarah was a smart kid, she'd be just fine. After all, he'd taught her how to everything he could about how to make it in this fucked up world. Ortiz would keep an eye on her for him. Error. Network not found. Message could not be sent. Warning. Blood pressure dropping. Recommend immediate emergency medical aid. Oh, Ortiz, she'd be pissed when she finds out about this. No doubt she'd rage about him going out like this. You only took out one gonk. You're slipping, old man. He could hear her now. She'd get access to his files, all his secrets and stashes. The thought of what she'd do with such information made him grin, but he already knew she'd use his stashed away funds to take care of his family. Well, she'd probably kill his wife. Well, his ex-wife, or would she be his widow? Either way, Ortiz always hated her. Error. Network not found. Message could not be sent. Warning. Blood pressure critical. Immediate emergency medical aid required. I'm sorry, Ortiz, for everything. I really wish I had married you instead. Never should have turned you down like that. Oh god, I'm so sorry. I love you, girl. XXX. Watching as the two guys hugged and said their goodbyes, Naruto stayed near the door to keep a lookout down the hallway as they wrapped up. The other girl looked a little moody but also hugged the pair and seemed a little down when they broke apart. They'd used one of Caesar's shirts to make a makeshift bandage, ripping it into a long strip that he used to wrap around the gash to stop the bleeding. Hey Chum, Sid called out, hobbling over with his output's help, ready to go. When Naruto nodded he asked, where's your ride at? I don't think I'll make it too far with this hole in my leg. Ah, about that. You don't have a ride? Aim asked in shock. Never needed one, he admitted with a shrug. After all, he could outrun them with ease, and while they were admittedly fun to drive, he couldn't see himself ever needing to buy one. But I'll find one, I don't know, just wait here and I'll get one. No need, the other man called out, take mine hermano, just bring my baby back to me, alright. The girl next to him looked shocked, even more so when he walked over and handed the blonde the chitki for it, a simple-looking black card with Valentino drawings marking it. Cesar, what are you thinking? He could hear the girl whisper as she pulled the man back, that car's our only way around, if something happened to it you won't be able to work. He just gave the girl a kiss and wrapped his arm around her, much to her annoyance. Be serious, pendejo. Michaela, baby, relax. She crossed her arms and frowned. Everything'll be fine. Sid hooked me up with his stuff since he's leaving the city. Since he won't need it anymore, said he'd rather give it to us as a pre-wedding gift than let some random gonk steal it. Looking between the two couples, Naruto saw Sid give his chum a grin and a thumbs up, which made the other girl look down, half embarrassed. And hey, Naruto, right? The blonde-faced Cesar nodded. Thanks for the help earlier. Gonk had some moves, but I had it handled till he started using that chrome of his. The group looked over to the now dead man laying on the floor. Looked like one of the two had finished him off after he left. The man walked over, his girl still wrapped in his arm. Look after Sid, all right. He slapped him on the shoulder with a grin before looking to Amelia. You two aim, you know how much of a gonk he can be. Hey. Amelia was still afraid of the ordeal they were going through but couldn't help but laugh, burying her face into Sid's new shirt. I'll try my best. Oh come on babe, Sid whined, getting another chuckle from the group before looking at the waiting Naruto. Come on Aim, we need to get moving. Don't need to keep everyone waiting. With a final farewell and a parting joke about how they never thought Sid would be the one to manage to leave Night City behind, even if it was from being on the run, the group left and headed downstairs onto the street. Naruto kept ahead of them, keeping a lookout the entire time for any more suits that may try to attack, but luckily for them, and any would-be assassin, none showed. Following Sid's directions, he led them to the parking lot where Caesar's car was waiting, and what he found shocked him. The young man must have seen his reaction and chuckled before grimacing as his side ached. Nova huh. It's a Alcorado V4 FC 580 Playboy. Last we tested it had 407 horsepower weighing in around 2.6 tons. We kept tuning the motor and can push 150 miles per hour. Pretty preem, ain't it? Me and Cesar put a ton of love into this Vado. Shame I won't get to see the Vado be finished. Aim smiled at him and gave her own little giggle. Yeah, I had the same reaction. She told him while helping Sid to the car. The suicide back door was another impressive feature to him, as he didn't know they could open like that at all. But while the girl got him in the car, Naruto walked around it, just taking in the impressive custom work. 6 wheels, 2 in the back, 4 in the front, each with black and gold rims, a gold paint job that seemed to both reflect and absorb the sunlight at the same time. But he could see why Sid mentioned it wasn't finished. On the side there seemed to be several outlines where they planned to paint something, and while it wasn't exactly his style, he could appreciate the style and work they did. You know, I think we have a problem, he spoke up after a few moments as she shut the door and was about to make her way around to the other side. Both looked at him with a look of apprehension as he walked over to the driver's side door and tapped it. We gotta get to your nomad contact at some motel outside the city, right? They nodded, and well, the car's definitely gonna get noticed in Santo Domingo. Sid paled as he covered his face with his hands. Fuck, totally forgot about that. He let out a stream of curses which made his output look more and more alarmed. What's wrong? She looked between the two, dread filling the pit of her stomach even more. Baby, what happened? Aim, babe, I'm sorry. I forgot all about 6th Street. They'll stop us for certain if we roll through their turf in this. Deal or no deal between the two gang, rolling through Santo will make them think we're trying to fuck with them. The thought of there being more problems, this time with a whole different gang, made the girl start tearing up. Actually, I think I got an idea. Hearing Naruto speak after a moment of thought, they looked at him hopefully. Hold on a minute, I need to make a call. Quickly finding Rico's contact, he sighed at the thought of having to reach out to the man with how things ended between them. The subscriber you are trying to dial is unavailable, or the number is not in service. He blinked as he heard the robotic voice. Please check the number you are trying to dial in. Naruto ended the call. Had the old guy changed his contact? Well, considering the past, either way he needed another plan. Scrolling down, he selected the old man's contact and waited for it to go through. glancing back to see the young couple waiting in the back seat watching him nervously. He grinned and motioned to them that everything was good, hopefully the gesture would make them calm down and feel a little more at ease. "Ah, Naruto, I was not expecting you to call so soon," the padre mused as his picture popped up over his optic. "I pray everything is going well." "Yeah, so far. Sid took some damage but he'll be okay," he reported, telling the old man what had gone down with his distant nephew while walking around the car. "But padre, we got an issue." "Oh. I need to contact someone and make sure we can get through Santo Domingo without any issues. I can't get up with my 6th Street contact, so I need the contact info for the only other person I can think of that'll arrange it." "And who might this person be?" Naruto grinned. "General Rick Morton." XXX. David hated Arasaka Academy. Well, for the most part anyway. He enjoyed learning some of the subjects they taught on some level, but once people found out he was poor they changed their attitudes towards him. At best they ignored him and acted as if he didn't really exist, which was how most of the staff reacted to him despite his grades being some of the best. At worst they bullied him and talked down to him whenever they got the chance, calling him the gutter rat and other less creative names. Well, he got back at them in his own way. When a few of the others, around 6 different students, found out he was able to get his hands on the kind of BDs that pampered little corpo brats like them couldn't easily get their hands on, they wanted them and he was more than happy to sell them some of the most hardcore shit he could get. These little corpo sociopaths in the making wanted the kind of XBD that they couldn't get through their parents due to how bad it'd make them look. Battles from the Unification Wars, cyberpsycho meltdowns, fist fights to the death hosted by the Animals gang, and more recently XBDs of the recent gang war between 6th Street and the Valentinos. Not to mention the amount of porn he'd been asked for, and was genuinely shocked when one corpo brat offered him 700 eddies for a XBD of a gang rape. What kinda gonked up 15-year-old girl wanted a XBD of being raped and, in her words, it'd be Nova if it were as brutal as possible. He swore she was as excited at the idea as she was embarrassed to ask. But at least she stopped trying to fuck with him for fun now, which also caused her friends to pretty much forget about him as well. Who knew that the Queen Bee, one of the most popular bitches in the academy, had a fetish like that? "If it isn't the rat off the streets," he groaned in his head at the sound of that voice. Katsuo Tanaka and his little band of goons made it their personal mission to bully him any chance they could without getting caught. "Surprised you're still coming here, aren't you ashamed of being at the lowest of the low around here?" The blue-haired teen sneered at him and looked him up and down as his goons surrounded the other teen. "Just look at you, don't you know that no matter how hard you try you'll always be a gutter rat? Even if you somehow manage to graduate, do you think you'll actually be able to make it in Arasaka? All you'll ever be good for is mopping the floors." He smirked as the other boys laughed at him, making David grit his teeth. "At least I'll pass on my own," he growled out. "Heard some of the staff talking about your dad paying for you to do a retest." He smirked as Katsuo looked shocked then pissed. "What's next? Gonna have daddy pay to have someone take it for you too?" The bell rang, signaling that they had to get to their next class just before the other team could retort. "Just you wait, gutter rat." The team sneered at him one last time before passing him, pushing past him and hitting him with shoulder. Katsuo Tanaka was the main reason he hated Arasaka Academy, and if it wasn't for his mother working so hard to keep him here he'd break that blue-haired fuck nose the first chance he got. But sadly, all he could do was bear with it. For mom's sake. He wished he could make the asshole leave him alone. He didn't even care about making him regret fucking with him. He'd be fine if Tanaka would turn around and act like he didn't exist. The thought made him think of his new neighbor, Naruto. Yeah, him. He wished he could be like that. To be able to make those gangoons back down like they did was one of the most Nova things he'd ever seen in person, and all without using a weapon too. Maybe he'd talk to the guy later on. He didn't seem too much older than him. XXX. General Morton, it's been a while. The man got a look of startled realization on face. "Ah hell, it's you." He grumbled with a grimace. "Look Naruto, we don't want any issues. That Avery kid got his ass kicked by his squad, can we just leave it at that?" "That's not why I was calling, I kinda forgot about that to be honest," he admitted while scratching his ear, making the man twitch and curse. "But if you want to make it up to me, there is something you can do." The man got a pained look before gambling. "Fine, what do you want?" "Should've kept my mouth shut," he thought while waiting to hear what the Shino would demand. "I'm escorting 2 people through Santo Domingo and I don't want to be checking over my shoulder any more than I already have to. The car we're using is, well, it's a Valentino car, and if one of your people sees it and decides to do something stupid." "I get it," Morton nodded. I've already laid down the law about fighting the Tinos, but one driving through Orao is another story. Send a picture of the car. I'll make sure nothing happens. Naruto did just that, snapping a quick picture with his holo before sending it over. Morden's eyes lit up as he received the picture, making him whistle. Goddamn boy, yeah, I see why you called. This beast just screams Tino. Give me a second. The general seemed to be checking something for a bit. Take the bridge on MLK into Santo. I've sent a message to make sure nothing happens. Appreciate it. He nodded and gave the two lovers a thumbs up, making them look relieved. By the way, I tried getting up with Rico earlier. Rico left 6th Street a few weeks back, the general snapped, cutting him off. Something in his voice told Naruto that he wasn't too happy with that either. Oh, figured he changed his contact then. He shrugged. After taking his niece hostage like he did, Rico most likely changed his number to avoid any contact with him. What are you on about? Morden shifted and crossed his arms over the holo. Rico's had the same contact for years, besides I just spoke with him a few hours back. Oh shit, that reminds me, some gonk fixer came looking for info on you, real scumbag too, and that's coming from me. The name's Faraday. The man slowly trailed off. You said you couldn't get up with him. Naruto nodded, like he sent you to voicemail or... It said something about the number not being in service or unavailable or something. Ah hell, got a Delta kid. Without another word, Morden hung up on him. As the line went dead and shut itself off, Naruto blinked. The Gangoon boss seemed really worried right then. He'd have to look into whoever this Faraday guy was and find out why he was looking for him. If the boss of one of the major gangs in NC didn't like the guy and warned him, then he had to be. Hey Naruto, everything cream. Turning back to the couple, Naruto shook the thoughts from his head and gave them a grin before heading over to the driver's side door. Yeah, it's all good. He climbed and marveled at all the fine work put into the red synth leather interior, then at the chrome and synth leather steering wheel as he gripped it distractedly. We worked out a deal, just have to cross over on MLK and they'll know not to mess with us. Unseen to the blonde, the couple shared a confused glance and wondered as to how or why 60th Street wouldn't try to stop them, especially in this car. Who the hell was this guy and how could he manage to pull something like that off? How'd he have the pull with the general of 6th Street anyway? And not only that, but he just casually called and asked the padre for his number without payment or trading something for it. Sid wasn't too close to his distant uncle, but he knew the man used information like a weapon and wouldn't just give it away for no reason. So once again he had to wonder. Just who was this Naruto guy? So guys, said Blonde called back to them as he started up the Vado, engine purring as he pulled out onto the road. Who are you meeting? AIM explained that she had managed to arrange this through a well-known fixer in Watson. The price was steep and they'd sunk every eddy they could manage into it in hopes for a fresh new start. As she spoke, Naruto kept seeing them as what could have been between himself and Kami, just two people in love that wanted to start a new life, a life that the city didn't want them to have. She told him about her father, a Arasaka department head who saw her as a bargaining chip to be controlled, how he only cared for his image and hated her doing anything to negatively affect that image. The more he heard, the more angry he got at the man. She must have noticed his agitated state because she slowly trailed off and apologized for rambling off topic. But according to the fixer, they were to meet some nomads who would get them safely over the border and to Vegas, where Sid had some family willing to let them stay for a while. But for now they only had to go and meet their nomad contact that would take them to the camp where they'd be smuggled away safely. They hoped. And this contact, have you ever met him? She shook her head. No, never met her. But the fixer said she was an honest girl. Her name is Panam, I think. XXX. Pulling out of her deep dive, Sasha felt sick to her stomach as a wave of shame washed over her, making her regret ever signing on to work with that son of a bitch Faraday. Yeah, she needed the eddies, but she felt so filthy after seeing what he did. Hacking that guy's soft so he couldn't call for help while Faraday interrogated him, then reading the desperate message he tried to send made her feel like the lowest scum on earth as she blocked them. Faraday hadn't exactly specified the entire job to her earlier, having offered to pay her an extra fee to continue her deep dive, and now she knew why. That son of a bitch. But since he didn't fully specify, she didn't feel too bad about removing her hacks a little earlier than she was supposed to. Sorry Choom, she muttered while thinking of that Rico guy. Hope your Chooms can get to you in time. Her eyes lit up. Hey Maine, you mind picking me up? She gathered her stuff up quickly, not wanting to stick around. Her temp netrunner set up more than she needed. Yeah, job's done. No worse. I'll tell you about it on the way. Oh, you're not gonna believe what I just found too. Not over the holo. I gotta tell you in person. She wanted a picture of his face when she told him that she knew who the 6th Street Shino was. That was gonna be amazing. As the Vado pulled up to the stoplight at the turn to the bridge on MLK Boulevard, Naruto felt several frantic taps on his shoulder. "Ah, Naruto, I think something's wrong," she told him, her voice shaking. When he turned to look at her, he saw she was pale and motioning to the bridge where a large jacked-up Thornton Mackinac truck and a Chevy Anthrax car were parked halfway on the curb just by the end of the bridge. "A roadblock?" Sid questioned, looking grim as he saw several armed gangoons hanging around the truck. "Dude, I thought you talked to someone about this." "I did," the blonde said, narrowing his eyes. Morden wouldn't do something like this, right? He didn't know the man personally, but the way Rico had spoken about him made the gangoon boss out to be a man of his word at least. "But it looks like they've noticed us." Hearing that, they turned from him and back to the bridge to see the 6th Street gangers moving around. From where he sat, Naruto counted 7 gangoons, 3 moving towards the car on the other side of the road while 3 stayed near the truck. The last one moved to the center of the road and seemed to march to the halfway point of the structure and stand at a parade rest on the center line. "You two wait here," Naruto told them while pulling the car up and beside the curb just off the bridge. "I'll go see what's up." Sid nodded and palmed the pistol he'd been given, both of them sitting a little lower in the car just in case. Several other cars that had wanted to turn down the bridge made U-turns upon seeing the gangoons on the end, choosing to go further down to use one of the other bridges a mile or two away rather than tangle with 6th Street. Some of the pedestrians were muttering that the gang had to have set up a toll on the bridge before noticing him. Those mutterings turned to them saying things like, "Dead gonk walking," and shaking their heads at the suicidal blonde, but they didn't stop watching, wanting to see what horrible thing would happen to him. As he neared, Naruto looked the man up and down. He was dressed in a full OD green uniform with a tan tactical vest that had several colorful ribbons pinned to the front. The man wore a matching garrison cap on his bald head and sported a long, well-groomed beard. "What's going on here?" he questioned, ready to react if the man or his partners further back made a wrong move. From his position, Naruto could see that the other 6 men hadn't armed themselves but didn't want to risk it. "You Naruto," the man barked as he got near, getting a nod from the blonde. A tense moment passed before, to his surprise, the ganger stood at attention and saluted. "Good afternoon, sir. I am Captain Willis Morden." He held the salute for a few moments then returned to a parade rest. "The general has asked that me and my men provide you with an escort through Arroyo and Rancho Coronado. And just let me say that I consider it an honor, sir." XXX. Sitting behind her desk, Meredith Stout sipped her coffee while going over the preliminary report on the name provided by their pet fixer Faraday. "Naruto Uzumaki, just who are you, I wonder?" Nothing before 2074 seemed to exist on the man, and she had her personal data procurement team picking through any databases that they had access to, including a few they shouldn't have access to. No records of any kind could be found aside from a backdated ID that led to a dead end. His moniker of the Shino, however, led to a quagmire of hearsay, rumor, and speculation. He was considered to be the gangoon equivalent to Arasaka's pet Borg Atom Smasher or their longtime contracted merc, Morgan Blackhand. Hey, had someone told me that some gangoon would be compared to Blackhand, I'd have had them kicked out of my office before they even finished the sentence, she mused to herself while tossing the datapad down. The marked decrease in scav activities were attributed to the Shino despite Commissioner Jerry Falter trying to claim that it was due to the hard work of the city's police officers. 6 months and nearly 45,000 eddies, that's how much this information cost Militech thanks to Faraday, the freak. Nowhere near enough to send to the higher-ups, much to her frustration. Maybe she should have another chat with Faraday, remind him just who he did gigs for in the first place. A small window popped up in her optic, alerting her that her PA was at the door. "What is it?" The door slid open as the young man rushed in, clutching another datapad to his chest. "I said what is it, Devin?" she asked again, not hiding her annoyance. "I'm sorry ma'am, but there's been an emergency." He hurried over and placed the screen on her desk in front of her. Narrowing her eyes, she snatched the datapad up and cursed as she went over the details. A Militech convoy had been hijacked, and to make matters worse, the trucks contained a shipment of experimental next-gen smart missiles headed to one of their biggest customers, the Nusa Armed Forces. XXX. Choom, I never thought I'd ever see the day something as fucking preem as this would happen. Sid said, grinning like a fool as they cruised down the highway through Rancho Coronado. "This is Nova as fuck." He waved to a couple of Sixers as they passed them, their dumbstruck looks making him wince as he laughed. "You see their faces. Babe, let's not try to provoke them, okay?" his girl asked nervously. They were a hell of a sight, a 6th Street longbody Chevrolet Anthrax followed by the Vado, clearly a Valentino-affiliated car, with a jacked-up Thornton Mackinac bringing up the rear as they rolled down the street. It sounded like the start of a bad joke to be honest, but looking in the rear-view mirror, Naruto could see the Gangoon standing in the bed of the truck, a LMG propped on the roof ready to shred anything that got in the way to pieces. "It'll be okay," he told the pair, glancing at the pair before motioning ahead of them. "We're almost at the edge of Santo anyway." Off in the distance they could see where the highway cut between through the ridge that marked the boundary where Night City ended and the eastern Badlands began. The truck following them revved its massive engine and pulled along the side of the Vado, the captain poking his head out the window. "This is as far as we go, you're on your own from here," he yelled, giving them a 2-fingered salute. "Good luck." The driver blew the horn twice, causing the car to pull aside while Naruto continued on by. "Holy shit, I still can't believe that happened," the man admitted as they got further and further away from their escorts. "You're the fucking man, Shum." The praise made the blonde grin back with a little laugh. "Aw, it's nothing." The last couple hundred yards before reaching the ridge was like night and day, going from a concrete maze of roads and megabuildings to a long stretch of desert road lined with old billboards advertising everything ranging from porn, the Delamain taxi service, all foods, and what looked like a children's show. No, wait, it was porn too. The drive past the ridge only took a few seconds before he was once again greeted by the familiar sight of the arid wasteland he'd spent weeks driving through. There were even more billboards on this side, all advertising the same things, but all he could see was the massive mountain of trash off to his right, a literal mountain of trash stretching for miles with no telling just what was buried underneath, tons and tons of rust and rot. He continued to drive for another couple of miles and soon, they came upon the Sunset Motel, the first and last stop out of NC for food, beer, choo-choo, and if you're desperate enough, a place to sleep. "This is the place," Aim told him, pointing towards the garage near a set of choo-choo pumps. "Ms. Panam is supposed to be at a garage." "I think that's it. I really hope she didn't leave already, we are a little late." She rambled nervously before Sid squeezed her hand. Pulling the Vado up to the side of the building, Naruto climbed out and looked around the dusty set of buildings. "Wait, here for a minute," he told the pair. "I'm gonna look around and make sure things are safe." The two nodded and got comfortable. While he could still get hints of the stench coming from the trash miles back, the air was a bit better here than in the city that he'd gotten used to, but still nowhere near as good as he remembered it being compared to Konoha. Then again, he thought after a moment, nothing will probably ever compare to home. "Hello," he called out, walking around the garage to see if anyone was there. Further off near the motel, he could see several people walking around and minding their own business. Several even seemed to be knocking back beers even though it was still early in the afternoon. "Guess I'll go check out the motel," he muttered to himself just as a loud clattering of metal came from inside the garage, followed by a woman cursing. "Come on, old girl," he could hear the woman plead from inside. "Don't be like this, don't I treat you right?" Heading towards the door, Naruto looked over to the Vado to double-check on his charges and found them watching him like a hawk, clearly also hearing the noise. "There you are, you little shit," the woman growled as he slowly opened the door next to the larger roll-up door, grimacing as the rusty hinges groaned. "Mitch, you asshole, these couplings aren't what I needed. I said a 43 meters, not a 73 meters. Damn it, gotta run a bypass." Peeking in, Naruto spotted a large heavily modified Thornton Mackinac with the hood up and a rather large gun mounted to the roof. But his eyes quickly zeroed in on the woman standing on the bumper, working on something under the hood. Or to be more exact, he zeroed in on the woman's ass as she was bent over working under the hood. "God damn," he caught himself thinking out loud, making his eyes go wide. "What the?" The woman leaned up and turned, spotting him. "Hey, who the hell are you?" Light brown skin with long dark brown hair in a messy bun, wearing blue jeans with a harness as a belt and a red and black leather jacket, the woman was a beauty in her own right. He must have been staring too long because he suddenly found himself scrambling to duck behind the door as a small metal toolbox flew his way. "I said you the fuck are you?" He heard her yell, the toolbox flying past the half-open door to scatter a random assortment of tools on the sand. Whoa, calm down," he yelled, peeking around the door, spotting her stopping towards him with a hammer in hand. He contemplated slamming it shut but settled for a quick retreat towards the Vado. "I'm looking for someone called Panam." She slammed the door open the rest of the way and stormed out, kicking some tools aside. "Oh yeah? And who the hell are you, one of Dog Killer's punks?" The woman looked like she was ready to swing the hammer at him as soon as she got the chance. "Excuse me," Amaya called from the backseat of the Vado, are you the nomad woman Ms. Rogue mentioned would help us? That caused the other woman to stop short while Naruto readied himself for the hammer to come flying. You two the ones I'm taking to camp. When they nodded, she lowered the hammer fully. About time you showed up, Amaya and Sydney Wright. Hello there, pleasure to meet you Ms. Panam. Amelia told her with a small smile. This is Sydney, she blushed a bit, input. The man in question grinned and waved a slightly bloody hand. Sup. Panam then turned to the blonde. Rogue didn't say anything about you, she snapped looking him up and down. Who are you? The name's Naruto, he answered, slowly relaxing as she didn't swing at him. Not sure about Rogue but the Padre sent me to get these two to you safe. Had some dudes trying to zero them earlier. Wait a minute, she looked like she was about to smirk. The Padre sent you, the fixer in Haywood. He nodded slowly, making her laugh. Oh boy that's fucking great. The woman held her side and laughed hard enough to bring a tear to her eye. Oh I can't wait to tell that cheap stuck-up old bitch she had to have another fixer step in to make sure her gig went through. She turned back to the garage and tossed the hammer towards the door, slowly stopping her laughter as she wiped her eye. Phew I needed that laugh, she sighed while walking over to the car. As soon as she was next to Naruto they tried to punch him only for him to dodge back. Oi what the hell's wrong with you? The blonde demanded. She gave him a half-hearted glare. You know what you did. She growled back making look away innocently. That's what I thought. He couldn't help it, it was a pretty nice ass in his opinion. Seen better, he couldn't help it but at the same time he wasn't lying, so far he hadn't seen a rear quite as nice as Cammy's. Then again, hers was the only one he'd been interested in for a while. This time, Naruto didn't bother dodging the punch she sent his way, just letting her punch his raised arm, making her wince when her fist struck his chrome arm. But hey, you said something about a dog killer. Oh them, she asked while shaking her hand back and forth, just some gonk raffin shiv looking to stir up trouble. Ran a few of them off a while back and thought they wanted to even the score. Are they gonna be a problem getting them to where they're going? No more than usual, she shrugged, but I doubt it. We'll be taking these two east, they tend to stay in the northern Badlands for the most part. Might see a straggler or two though. While they spoke, the lovers both moved to get out of the Vado with Amaya climbing out first and quickly stepping around to help Sid. Looks like Loverboy took some lead, no worries. The doc'll take a look at him as soon as we are at camp. Putting both hands on her hips, Panam walked past Naruto over to the pair. If you got anything to take with, just toss it in the back of my baby in the garage. She told them, shooting Naruto a look to see if he'd been staring at her again. He was looking away, hands behind his head whistling innocently. He'd totally taken a good look too. Seeing as the pair only had the clothes on their back, plus the pistol Sid was given, it took no time at all for them to get loaded up. Naruto helped the injured Sid into the backseat of the Thornton while Panam finished a quick patch job on her engine, stating that while the old warhorse wouldn't be at peak performance she'd get them there. Hey Naruto, the young girl called out as the window rolled down. He turned to see the girl smiling at him while leaning over her input. Thank you so much. Yeah you're a real lifesaver, a real prime gato. A gato, he repeated, looking confused. The only gato he knew was that greedy little businessman from Wave and surely they weren't calling him that. Sid nodded. Hell yeah Chum, means you're a cool cat, a smooth operator. Don't know how you managed to get those 6th Street gangers to give us an armed escort like that but I'll never forget it. He told him before leaning forward to kiss Aim, who was still leaning in front of him. He cracked a grin while Panam gave them a look from around the hood. This guy got 6th Street to escort them. While she wasn't as plugged into the news coming out of Night City, she did know that 6th Street and the Valentinos had a short but violent war a few months back and that there was still plenty of bad blood between the two. Taking a quick glance through the now open garage door, the nomad nodded. That was definitely a Valentino ride if she ever saw one, so how the hell did he manage that? XXX. Rick 03. Hey Ortiz. Shit timing I know but I could really use a hand. Please. She just stayed curled in a ball on her bed, hidden under her blankets like she did as a child as she read the messages over and over again. Face even more of a mess, throat raw from screaming as she punished herself. Faraday got me good, Chum. I don't know if you'll even get this. Biomonitor keeps pinging like I don't know how fucked I am. Really wish I had that old painter right about now though. Wish I could tell ya how good those gash grenades worked but the gonk had a runner disable them. Yeah I kept him just like I kept all the stuff you gave me over the years. If she'd been there to back him up, she could have fucked that netrunner up with a few of her demons, fried the son of a bitch in their own chair. But no, she was busy pouting that her chum had left the gang. Just up and dealt it on him, leaving him alone, and now look at what happened. Don't think I'll be making it out of this one, girl. Sorry to ask, but you remember that promise to wipe my drives? Do you mind doing that still? Don't forget to go through them first though. Got some Nova shit on there that I'd like you to have. She would. Come hell or high water, she'd do it for him. That, and she always wanted to know what kinda kinks he had that he was too embarrassed to admit to. I'm sorry too, for going out like this. Figured it'd happen sooner or later, but I always thought it'd go down differently, you know. Even narrowed it down to the 3 most likely scenarios. Either it would be my bitch wife killing me, you strangling me for being a massive dumbass, or a wild drug-fueled sex heart attack. Sorry, couldn't resist. Think I'm going into shock now. I love you, Ortiz. Always have. Sorry for being too much of a little bitch to admit it. If I could go back and change things, I'd accept your feelings all those years ago and kick that bitch to the curb like I should have all that time ago. Fucking Biomaniter won't stop, says I'm critical. No shit. I love. The last message was sent unfinished, meaning the message function had closed due to inactivity and sent the unfinished message. Every message she sent was left unopened from what she could see. God, how she wanted to go to his apartment, but the thought of what she would find Peter fighting her. Dozens of what-ifs kept flowing through her mind, anxiety twisting her up inside without mercy. Beep. The notification over her holo made her heart skip a beat. For one glorious moment the world was back to normal as she checked it, hoping her chum had sent her a message, only for those hopes to crash down like a kick in the snatch as she saw her personalized contact name for the boss man pop up with a message. G3NERLM0RTY, Ortiz, need you to meet me at these coordinates. Now. XXX. Waving at the truck as it tore off down the road, Naruto made his way back to the Vado while contacting the Padre, who picked up on the other end pretty quickly. Naruto, I pray you bring good news. He spoke as soon as the picture popped up, his face ever somber as he sat with his hand together as if in prayer. No worries, Padre. Sydney and Amelia are safely out of the city, he reported while trailing along slowly, looking around to see what he could see around the motel now that he didn't have to look out for threats. There with the nomad contact, a girl named Panam. The old man nodded slowly but raised an eyebrow at the girl's name. Since they are safely out of the father's reach, I shall consider the gig closed. I thank you, Naruto. I do not have much family left, but it does my soul some good knowing that they are out of the wolf's den. No problem, old man, he smirked, grimacing at the slip of his tongue. Said old man looked at him with raised brow and a stern look. I'll ignore that slip, you little shit. He grumbled to the blonde before shaking his head. You heading back to NC? Are you planning on exploring the Badlands? I seem to remember you mentioning that during one of our past discussions. He was a lot of things in his long life, a Valentino, both a good and bad husband, a man of the cloth, one-time solo himself, and now the premier fixer for all of Haywood by holding the respect of all the players in Haywood. But one thing he had never forgotten was the power of lending an ear and had offered the boy just that. Maybe some other time, I really need to get this car back to its owner. He told the man while patting the door. Don't think Cesar would appreciate me taking the Vado on an extended road trip. There are always other days. He nodded at that. Hey, before I forget, if I send you a name, can you get some information on a person for me? I think I need to have a talk with them. Depends on the person in question. Send me the name and I'll see what I can do. Spotting how distracted the blonde seemed to be over the holo, he gave him a questioning look. Everything okay? I'm hearing something. He turned and focused, lowering his voice as he did so. I'll get back to you, Padre, sending you the name now. The other man nodded and ended the call while Naruto shot the fixer a quick text with the name in question. With that out of the way, the blonde listened and could hear what seemed like a one-sided rushed conversation half drowned out by the rumbling machinery next to the large gas tank fenced in next to the building. I don't care, tell him. He could just make out over the noise as he peered through the bent metal bars being used as a fence. Between the building and the fuel tank, he could see a dirty-looking man standing over a bike trying to talk to someone over his holo. Listen, I put a tracker on that bitch's truck. Yes, you fucking gonk, that bitch. No, Panam, you fucking glitter jockey. Hearing that, his eyes widened and he jumped up onto the roof to get above and closer to the man to hear more. She's got 2 gonks with her, stupid city kids. The man reported as Naruto peered over the edge, taking care that his shadow didn't give him away. The guy was thin, wearing dusty road leathers with blue accents covered in older model tech with no chrome that he could see. But the main thing that made him grit his teeth was the patch of a flaming skull with Wraiths Outlaws, on the back of his jacket. Looks like she's headed down the highway, got the tracker synced with my bike's Navi soft. Gonna be easy to ambush the cunt and get payback. Fuck if I know, just zero the others. Nova, got a Delta, I'll be there soon. He couldn't let that happen. They'd already made it this far, escaped from Amelia's father and had a shot at their happily ever after. He wouldn't allow this to happen. While the man started packing away a small device and straddled his bike, a Brennan Apollo if he wasn't mistaken, Naruto snuck up behind the man and quickly caught him in a chokehold, dragging him off the bike which toppled over into the dirt. Hey, who the fuck? Shut up, Naruto squeezed, making him struggle a bit and claw at his arm. I'm only asking you this once, tell me what I want to know. You live to see another day. You lie to me and I snap your neck, you understand me? Fuck, you, he chalked out, eyes bludging in the blonde's grasp. As soon as the words left his mouth, Naruto reached around and grabbed the wraith's arm that had been clawing at his own arm and twisted it behind his back. He twisted more and more until all the man could do was stand on his tiptoes and let out a soundless gasp. Now let's try again, do you understand me? He demanded, giving one final push which dislocated the wraith's shoulder. Unable to yell, the man only nodded furiously. Where will that ambush happen? Eat shit, he gasped out before trying to laugh. Naruto growled, I don't have time for this. He muttered. The man felt his grip tighten more and panicked, trying all he could to break free before the blonde jerked his head to the side, snapping his neck. He had wanted more information but it sounded like he didn't have a lot of time before this ambush happened, so the only thing he could think of to do was try to make it there in time. Picking up the Apollo bike, he could see the flashing screen mounted on the tank which showed the position of the tracker hidden on Panam's truck. He could have just walked away, the gig was over and any other solo would have done just that, but he couldn't do it, his conscience just wouldn't let him. Regaling the old man, he turned the key and to his surprise the bike roared to life. He'd seen Jackie kick a lever to start his and expected this one to be the same. As the hollow rang, he took a minute to look down at the beast he straddled with a grimace. The thing was heavily modified and none of it looked like it had been done professionally. And was that brush guard part of a stop sign? Hey Padre, he called out before the man's vid feed even fully popped up. Change of plans, Panam's got some raffin out for payback, looks like she's about to run into an ambush. Leaving the Vado here at the motel, could you? I shall handle the retrieval, he responded, eyes a bit wider when he heard that. Now go with God and do what you do best. Sand and small stones went flying, partially covering the dead raffin behind him as he peeled out onto the road, following the Navapoint pointing him to the Nomad and her charges. XXX. Groaning, Panam blinked away the spots in her vision just as her windshield shattered, sending small flakes of glass raining down at her which she blocked with her arms. She felt a hand on her shoulder shaking her and blinked a few more times before snapping out of it with a surge of panic. Through the broken windshield, she could see smoke and steam rolling out from underneath her hood and Ms. Panam, she turned to see the young woman she was hired to escort and winced. Ms. Panam. Enough, she cried out, shaking her grip from her arm. Several bullets impacted her truck making them all flinch. You too whole. The girl nodded and when she looked at Sid, she saw the young Valentino firing back through the busted window of his door. Fucking wraiths. Everything had been going just fine after leaving the motel. She had radioed ahead to let the rest of the family know she was on the way back to camp with the two travelers and was enjoying a nice drive with a pair of friendly city dwellers who were curious about nomad life. She was happy to tell them about the life she loved so dearly and never noticed the ambush until it happened. Several Wraith vehicles attempted to box her in but the warhorse was too much truck for them to handle, so she rammed a couple of their little shit boxes out of the way and tried getting back to wasn't until another heavily modified Thornton sideswiped her did they actually force her warhorse to stop, disabling her truck as it ran over several large rocks and damaged something that killed the engine. Panam, she could hear Saul calling out over the comms installed in her dash. Her call to them for help had been cut off earlier and he sounded frantic. Panam, answer me. What happened? Fucking Raffin, she groaned, slapping the panel to answer him. Wraiths. They ambushed me and several more bullets shredding the back glass cut her off, showering the two in the back with glass. Need some help here. Just hold out, we're on the way. Hey, are you packing any heat? She heard the man in the back ask, followed by him firing a couple rounds. Almost out here. Sid fired another few and was rewarded with a scream followed by a click as the slide locked back. Fuck, I'm out. Taking her personal link, she leaned over to the passenger seat and jacked into the console before replying, under the seat. Lines of data filled her vision and several warnings popped up as she took control of the turret mounted on the roof. Oh come on you old piece of shit. It had been hit several times already, but after some gentle persuasion, i.e. her kicking the roof under it in frustration, the gun cycled and was ready to fire. Haha, eat this you raffin assholes. The turret whirled around, firing burst after burst of high-caliber rounds towards the wraiths and their vehicles. Several that had been trying to rush the truck after Sid ran out were caught flat-footed and blasted off their feet as the rounds cut through them with ease. But even as it kept them back, they still managed to fire off a few rounds here and there, aiming to disable the gun. XXX. Naruto followed the Navipoint along the highway leading into the more civilized part of the Badlands where travelers still dared to go when needed and more often than not with armed guards. Considering that Panam had, at best, a good 5 or so minute head start, he was surprised at how far she had gotten. His heart sank when he heard a boom echo over the sound of his motor and the rush of the wind in his ears. Damn, I hope I'm not too late, he cursed before seeing a smoke cloud rising up in the distance behind several hills. Hope this thing can handle going off-road. A small car honked at him as he cut across the entire highway and sped up a small hill, nearly causing a small wreck and wrecking himself when the bike jolted suddenly and seemed to ride a lot smoother than before. After a couple of minutes, he cursed and pulled the brakes hard, causing the wheels to lock up and skid through the sandy dirt, throwing up even more of a dust cloud. Need to go faster, he thought while hopping off and letting the bike roll on. His feet dug into the soil and he shot off towards the rising smoke cloud, surpassing the bike as it hit a rock and went crashing into the ground. Covering the distance that would have taken a few minutes by bike in less than one, Naruto arrived at the top of a small hill just in time to see the massive gun on top of Panam's truck to whirl around and unleash hell on the approaching wraiths, knocking them down with puffs of red mist and sparks exploding from their backs just before they collapsed like puppets with their stings cut. From what he could see, the three were pretty outnumbered by the attacking wraiths, who were now hiding behind any cover they could find while popping up to take potshots at the nomad. In the chaos before him, Naruto counted at least 7 vehicles each marked with blue paint with gave a low whistle. Damn, they must really have a bone to pick with her, he thought while trying to count the number of wraiths. With them moving around from cover to cover he managed to count around 20 before giving up and deciding to make his move. XXX. Shoot that fucking bitch's gun. What are you gonks doing, it's just one gun. Tomas gritted his teeth as he heard Dogkiller's pet bitch Ross screeching out orders. Fucking cunt had no idea how to fight and she thought the best thing to do was run headfirst into the fucking bullets. He was half tempted to fucking shoot her himself and say she took a round from the nomad down there. Why are you gonks so fucking useless? Something heavy fell into him and brought him to the ground, nearly knocking him out of his cover which would have surely gotten him killed. Looking to see what it was, the wraith felt his heart sink at the twitching, headless corpse that had once been his Chum Wiley. Pushing his corpse off of him, he felt anger surge through him. Ross thought that just because the boss had a thing for her that she was some kinda leader now. That she knew how things worked. She got her shit kicked in by that nomad bitch at the Sunset Motel and went crying to the boss. Now here they were getting chewed up by the same bitch. Why the fuck did the boss send them with her in the first place? What are you hiding for? Looking over, he saw the cunt snarling at him from behind her own ride and bit back the urge to shoot her with his weapon. He had a Crusher shotgun, what the fuck was he supposed to do this far away? He used it to shoot while driving down gonks on the highway, not snipe them at a distance. The bitch down there would flatline him in a heartbeat before he got close enough to do any real damage. Fuck you, he yelled, finally having enough. Why don't you go down there and get your gonk ass zeroed instead of us, you fucking joy toy bitch? Looking down at Wiley's body, he gave him a silent apology and pulled the DR-5 Nova revolver from his dead Chum's hand. Here, give this a try. He snarled, tossing it at her as hard as he could, hoping it would smack her in the face. It went wide, bouncing off the trunk of the car next to her. Take it and show us how it's done, bitch. Show us you're good for something other than laying on your fucking whore back. He couldn't see her face due to the cloth mask she wore, but he knew she had to be turning purple, especially when he heard a laugh from further back. Ross looked like she was about to grab the revolver, probably about to try and shoot him, when she suddenly looked down. He followed her gaze and saw a weird knife stabbed in the ground in front of her with a small piece of paper tied to it waving in the breeze. The fuck, he thought in confusion, did one of the others throw it? Like passing a damn note. Ross reached for the knife and just as she touched it, the note glowed. As the tag detonated, sending a few wraiths tumbling along the ground and vaporizing too. Naruto continued his sprint towards the wraiths as they tried to regroup and recover from the sudden explosion. He spotted the nearest one to him recover faster than the others and changed his course, before yelling out, "Over here, asshole!" Making the wraith turn his head to look at him with mismatched optics and a look of shock on his scared face. With practiced ease, he struck the man with crippling blow to his throat and finished him off by slamming his head into the already cracked windshield of his small two-door Archer quartz. His partner, who turned and caught sight of him just as his friend's head finished breaking the glass, spun around with a cry of, "Quinn! You son of a," swinging the barrel of his copperhead rifle around to shoot the new attacker. But Naruto was already too close. Catching the front end of the rifle, he forced the end to point away from him as it fired several rounds off into the distance. The heat from the already hot barrel burned the blonde's Gannic hand and he could feel the pressure from each gunshot next to him. "My turn," he snapped, pulling the gun towards him with the wraith being jerked along with it. Naruto grinned as he leaned back and struck the man in his chest with a side kick Lee would have been proud to see. The kick knocked the wind out of the outlaw, allowing Naruto to easily disarm him as he snatched the rifle away and flipped it around to aim at the now downed man. Gasping for breath, the wraith outlaw seemed to try alternating between trying to shield his face and raising his hands in surrender, pure animalistic panic in his eyes as he stared down the barrel of his own gun. Click. "Oh you lucky fucker." Naruto dropped the empty rifle, which made the still gasping outlaw relax for a moment before the blonde kicked him in the face, knocking him out. He'd deal with them later. Panam was still firing at the others, hopefully she either did or would recognize him and wouldn't take any shots at him. Taking a round from that arm-mounted gun a while back was more than enough for him, he didn't feel like trying it again. Looking up, he locked eyes with a woman decked out in the same colors as the rest of the wraiths and cursed as she blindly fired at him. He threw himself back as several bullets kicked up the sand around where he'd been and just as he went to grab his own pistol, her head disappeared with a spray of bone fragments and meat. "Oh fuck," he grunted out, scrambling to his feet. Panam must have spotted her and took a shot with that beast. He could have handled it but the blonde wasn't gonna turn down the help, thanks. He called out, despite knowing she couldn't hear him. "XXX. As that, Naruto?" Panam asked out loud as she spotted the only person she'd ever seen wearing that much orange ambush her ambushers, slamming the head of the first one through the car's windshield and disarming the second before knocking him out. The earlier explosion must have been his handiwork too, him showing up right after it was too much of a coincidence. Amelia, who was in the foot where it was safest, looked shocked. "Mr. Naruto. You call him?" Sid asked, holding the Lexington pistol she kept stashed under her seat as a spare. He wasn't taking potshot anymore since she started using the turret, only keeping it just in case one got too close, which she didn't let happen. "No, don't have his contact," she admitted. "Don't know how he knows but I won't turn down the..." Seeing the blonde jump back and one of the outlaws pop up, wildly firing her gun at him, she cursed and lined up a shot of her own, taking the gonk's head off. "Shit, is he?" A tense moment passed before she spotted his head pop up over the bullet-riddled Archer quartz, making her sigh in relief. "He's okay," she huffed, letting them know he was fine, her earlier curse making them pale. Watching him, she saw something glowing behind the car but couldn't get a good view of it as several more wraiths further down open-fired on her truck, causing the vid feed to glitch badly and disorient her with the feedback. As it cleared and she managed to fire a few shots of her own, something blue shot over towards the other vehicles and kicked up a massive dust screen. "What the hell is..." She started only to grit her teeth and grimace as her warhorse rocked back and forth, which threw her into the foot below her dash. Dust kicked up from the explosion spilt in through the broken back window, making them cough and sputter as a whirring sound filled the air. "The fuck kinda hardware is he using?" she grunted, rubbing her forehead as the sound and wind finally died down. That had to be some hell of a bomb he was using to make that kind of pressure wave. Hell, he probably would have killed them all if she'd been any closer. Her vid feed was shot. Something had damaged the lens and all she could see was a spider web of cracks that prevented her from seeing. XXX. Back down in the thick of the battle, Naruto squinted his eyes as he got a face full of sand from his Recentrican's destination and covered his face partially with his chrome arm. Further ahead, over the sound of the countless blades of wind, he could hear a few screams and cries from the wraiths, lucky enough to not be shredded by the expanding vortex but forced to see their friends be shredded to pieces before their very optics. When the dust and smoke cleared, he was greeted by the sight of two shredded cars and what remained of a motorcycle, each covered in the shredded remains of several outlaws. Further past the bloodbath, the last remaining wraiths seemed to be in shock, one staring in horror as the scene became clear, another vomiting, and the last even started to cry as he fell on his ass and started scrambling backwards. So, wanna give up? He yelled out to them, half hoping they did while the other half of him wanted the outlaws to try and continue the fight. Wraiths and Raffenshiv in general were nothing but a bunch of bloodthirsty bandits that preyed on the innocent and were pretty much on the same level as any scav. Hearing a scraping sound, he looked over to his side to see the wraith he'd slammed into the windshield cough and tried to shakily pick himself up off the ground, trying to use the car to pull himself up. As he turned, one of the other Raffen shook out of his shock with a yell and fired, grinning as he saw the orange-wearing Solo's body jerk several times as he was hit. "I got him," he yelled out excitedly, like a child that won a prize at the fair. "I got him." But the man was shocked when a puff of smoke enveloped his target and all he could see was his chum, face bloodied as he fell to the ground with several holes in his chest. What the, Jakob? The man was once again in shock. He'd been certain that he shot the other guy. He was dressed all in orange. How the fuck did his hit his own chum like that? Several shurikens slammed into his chest, punching through the ragged synth-rode leathers he'd been wearing. The final blade sank deep into his neck, bringing him to his knees with a gurgle before falling to the ground, quickly bleeding to death as he pulled it out in a blind panic. Naruto gave his own little smirk. It had been a while since he'd gone back to basics like this and used the good old substitution jutsu. Having used the wraith next to him as a distraction for him to throw a few shuriken. Only a couple left now. XXX. Shit. Seeing her fellow wraith fall, blood pouring out of his neck, Katrina pressed herself hard into the side of the badly damaged Thornton Galena, her M221 Saratoga SMG shaking violently in her tight grip. "This is fucked. This is so fucking fucked," she muttered, tears streaming down her face. What was supposed to be a simple ambush to get even with one of the Aldecaldos had gone wrong from the very beginning. They knew she had that damn truck but didn't have a clue just how modified it was, and that fucking gun on her roof was a surprise. Why hadn't anyone thought to mention it? Even when they managed to disable the bitch's truck, she tore into them with that turret and held them off. And now, she had backup packing some kinda artillery. What kind of gonk shit was that? Fuck, she could still see that blue thing shred her chums. No, it mulched them and turned their Ganix into a paste and ground their chrome into dust. Oh hell. Hearing the groan, Katrina fell to the side and aimed her SMG towards the voice and saw one of her fellow outlaws stagger around the car. "Oh shit, hold up." He cried out, coughing as he saw her aiming at him. "It's me. Theo," she asked, shocked. "Chum, I thought that Aldo bitch dusted you with that cannon." The woman scrambled towards him and yanked him down behind the cover of the car. "Get down before one of them finish the damn job." He did so and settled in against the rear panel next to her. "You all that's left." She nodded behind her own mask. Grover pissed himself and ran. She motioned off into the wastes of the Badlands. "Pussy will probably get himself zeroed out in the shit. You and me, we're the only ones left." She was still trembling and it showed in her voice. "How'd you manage to survive? I was sure you got hit in the chest." "About that," Theo exclaimed while moving to kneel next to her, peeking through the broken window of the Galena. "I didn't." Huh, her confusion turned to shock. Theo lunged forward and grabbed the receiver of her SMG, ripping it from her hands and in a flurry of movement, while pinning her against the car with his forearm against her neck. The sudden assault left her no chance to defend herself, and the sudden strike to her throat left her choking for breath, but in her blind panic, she struck against him as best as she could, striking him in the face with a flailing arm. Not even a moment after she struck him, smoke obscured her vision again. Ow, that actually hurt. She heard the voice, not recognizing it in the slightest. The pressure on her neck lightened up only slightly, and once the smoke cleared, Katrina was speechless when she saw the blonde man. How did he look like Theo? How the hell didn't she realize it? What kind of chrome was this monster chipped with? Was he even a human? No chrome in the world could do that, could it? Naruto rubbed his nose where the woman's chrome hand had smacked him. "Sorry to tell you that Theo did die. I just chose his look cause he was close." Her eyes widened when he reached behind his back and drew a kunai. "Don't give me that look," he grumbled as she tried to choke out. "Please, it'll be quicker than what you would have done." His arm pulled back from her neck. "No wait please, I can." Her desperate plea was cut off as he sank the blade deep into her neck. A trickle of blood came from her lips and down her chin as she gurgled. After a moment, he stabbed the kunai deeper, which made her entire body stiffen and jerk weakly as he withdrew the blade. It wasn't exactly quick and nowhere near painless, but he was true to his word and she died a lot quicker than one of their victims ever did. Taking a quick moment to scan around, Naruto confirmed that there were no living wraiths around, excluding the one running for his life deeper into the Badlands, but that problem would take care of itself in due time. He then ran across the open battleground where Panam had wrecked her truck. "Hey you guys," he yelled out as he got to the bullet-riddled truck with a worried grimace. From a distance the truck didn't look too bad, but now that he was closer the blonde could see all the damage. "Hey," he called again, only to come to a halt when the gun atop the truck spun to point in his direction. "Whoa, wait," he cried out, "it's me, Naruto." "Mr. Naruto." He heard from the cab and saw Amelia peek over the broken back glass. She was pulled back down after a moment. "No Sid, it's okay, it's Mr. Naruto." "Really?" A much paler Sid peeked this time, followed by Amelia. "Santamir to Chum, I never thought I'd be so happy to see another dude in my life." Noticing the gun lower its barrel, Naruto cautiously took a couple steps towards the truck, and when the gun didn't move he quickly moved to the door and swung it open to find the young lovers, covered in broken glass and surrounded by shell casings. Amelia looked jittery and worn out while Sid was much paler, holding his side which seemed to have reopened and was bleeding once again. "Not that I'm keeping score or anything," the man started as he leaned against his girl on the floor of the truck, "but this is the second time you saved us. Are you two okay?" he questioned, getting nods before moving to the front door. "Hey, you breathing in there, Panam?" "Yeah, somehow." Her voice was a lot more subdued than he'd heard previously, so when he grabbed the door and opened it, he was partly worried that she was actually hurt. What greeted him was the sight of Panam half sprawled over the driver's seat and into the passenger seat, once again giving him an up-close view of just how well her pants hugged her ass. "You sure that's all of them?" she questioned, disconnecting her personal link from the port and looking back just in time to see the blonde look away. When she didn't try to kick him he figured that she didn't catch him staring again and cleared his throat. "Yeah, it's safe." "Good," the woman groaned and sat up, wincing as she pushed